The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Thursday, January 28th, 2021. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Eric Levitz, associate editor at New York Magazine, on the upcoming civil war between Democrats over the filibuster. And then Edward Ongweso Jr. from Vice and Motherboard, the tech and labor reporter, on what's happening with the Reddit Wall Street bets. Also on the program today, Biden starts rolling back Trump's anti-abortion rules, as his executive actions include opening up the ACA exchanges, using the federal buying power to push for electric cars, and halting arms sales to Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Meanwhile, New York Times reports that the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, DARPA, tasked with protecting us from things like epidemics and pandemics, has been drained of resources and used as a slush fund for going on near 10 years now. Meanwhile, federal judges start to retire, opening up an opportunity for Biden's picks. And as Democrats in the Senate start talking about a less ambitious COVID relief bill, the USDA figures show that over 6 million people have been added to food stamp rolls since the beginning of the pandemic. Meanwhile, Mississippi's legislature moving to purge voters. And in Congress, a resolution introduced to expel Marjorie Taylor Greene from Congress. And lastly, while COVID deaths topped 4,000 people again yesterday, infections seem to have plateaued. The CDC still predicts we will pass 500,000 dead sometime by the end of February. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Yes, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate your being here, as I appreciate Emma Vigeland for being here today.
Hey, well, that's what you pay me for, so.
There you go.
You don't need to show the appreciation. That's what the money's for, in the words of Don Draper.
Well, that's what we're all talking about today with the, I know that you've made a killing on your stocks.
No.
But you weren't. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm holding the line. It was, again, negligible.
Ensuring you'll be
here
here tomorrow.
Right. I won't leave after, that guy, who invested $70,000 and made $22 million on Reddit. That's the most famous. I was not aware of that. That was not me.
I try and avoid. I try and avoid such information. We got a lot to cover today on the program. Let's start off with this clip from Nancy Pelosi. She was just speaking moments ago in a press conference, and there are multiple things going on, of course. We have investigations that are ongoing about the insurrection that took place 22 days ago in the Capitol building. Those investigations include trying to figure out, the reports that members of the Oath Keepers were actively trying to recruit people and gather weapons for this insurrection on the 6th, and still investigations into potential help that they may have had from members of the House or the Senate via Rudy Giuliani, et cetera, et cetera. All of this is being investigated. Much of this, I imagine, will be introduced in the trial, in the impeachment in the Senate that will take place in about 11 days from now. I think it's the 9th of February. For the life of me, I can't remember how many days January has. I know it's somewhere between 30 and 31.
Somehow, yeah.
I forget. Like... Time has been just destroyed for me over the past year. With that said, there's also a lot of information coming out about one of the newest members of the Republican caucus in Congress. She's from Georgia. We're talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was one of the most prominent QAnon conspiracy espousers elected to the Republican Party in the House. And Nancy Pelosi got a question about her today. We're having a little technical difficulties with playing that clip. Let's try it one more time.
I got it here.
Madam Speaker, I wanted to ask you about Marjorie Taylor Greene. How concerned are you about her past posts, remarks, rhetoric? What would you like to see done about her?
Oh, we have no sound.
Here, Brendan, let me take it.
Let's try this one more time.
COVID times, folks.
Madam Speaker, I wanted to ask you about Marjorie Taylor Greene. How concerned are you about her past posts, remarks, rhetoric? What would you like to see done about her?
What I'm concerned about is the Republican leadership in the House of Representatives, who was willing to overlook, ignore those statements, assigning her to the Education Committee when she has mocked the killing of little children at Sandy Hook Elementary School, when she has mocked the killing of teenagers in high school at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. What could they be thinking? Or is thinking too generous a word?
And you know, in some respects here, Pelosi is almost understating what Marjorie Taylor Greene did. On social media, she responded to a post claiming that Sandy Hook and Parkland, these two horrific shootings, one at an elementary school, one at a high school. And I think
the Las Vegas shooting, too. She also put out social media videos about the Las Vegas shooting. So this is a huge problem.
She responded to a post on social media that claimed that these things never happened, that they were fake. And she not just liked it, which I guess theoretically you could argue, well, I liked it just as a place marker. Then she went on to say it's all true. That's all true. She agreed with that sentiment. I mean, this is disturbing if this person just simply existed.
Which they do.
Which, of course, they do. But the idea that she's been placed on the Education Committee by Republicans here, I guess presumably she's going to make sure that we don't have any more false flag operations there. But it really is stunning. And frankly, I've been saying this for 16 years. I wrote a book about it in 2006. The Republican Party has been barreling towards this, and there has not been even a slight touch on the brakes, right? We had a maybe 7-day period where the Republican Party showed some measure of remorse for a tiny bit of measure of remorse by privately revealing that they may hold Donald Trump accountable for the insurrection that took place in Congress.
Now they're just not.
And now it's gone. I mean, it almost tracks perfectly with the grab them by the you know what tape, where people came out, Republican lawmakers are like, I can't even look at my daughter in the eye and vote for this guy. And then, of course, 2 weeks go by, and then all of a sudden, I guess maybe they got a pair of glasses or something like that, and it helped them.
Yeah, or a blindfold, so they didn't have to look their daughter in the eye.
And this is what Pelosi's doing here is exactly what the Democrats should be doing. This talk of unity. Let's just for a moment take it as if at face value that there is some belief that there are some Democratic lawmakers who believe that there is an opportunity to forge some form of unity with the Republicans. Just take it at face value, as opposed to, well, we have moderate positions that we want to basically prevent the heart of the Democratic Party from passing anything that might be too progressive or too helpful to people, and we want to be able to maintain our business interests, and therefore we join with Republicans to let them stop those things so that we don't have to own it. But let's just assume that there's a certain amount of sincerity there. That's absurd. That is completely devoid of the reality that exists in Congress and has existed in there for now almost decades.
And it's playing into Republicans' hands by pretending that's some sort of reality, because you have Ronna McDaniel, the head of the RNC, coming out, and she says QAnon is completely fringe. She said that yesterday. 30% of Republicans are sympathetic to QAnon, and those poll numbers were taken by YouGov after the Capitol insurrection. And we have a member of Congress who is a QAnon believer and didn't just do social media posts. Allegedly, it looks like her. She harassed David Hogg, one of, allegedly, I don't know if it's been confirmed if that video is her, but it sure looks like her. Followed him down the street for 2 minutes, harassing him and claiming it was some sort of false flag and there were unanswered questions.
One of the Parkland survivors.
One of the Parkland survivors. That's the kind of person who's in Congress. So there is a lot of value in Pelosi saying this publicly. I would have gone further, but still, it's, as you said to me before the show, it's not Ocasio-Cortez. It's not someone who traditionally speaks out, having the leader of the Democratic Party saying something like this. It's important. It
forces the media to pay attention to it. It forces the rest of the public to pay attention to it. Because if you don't have the Democrats saying it, then nobody will say it. Because you cannot expect the media to do this on their own. They'll report on certain things, but in terms of like really hammering in just how craven the Republican Party has become from top to bottom. And I say this has been going on for decades. I still remember John Boehner being asked, I think it was by, maybe it was Lester Holt, I can't remember. Will you have your the caucus members who are bringing up legislation about the president not being an American, will you do anything about that? No, he won't. I mean, this has been ongoing, and of course it builds on itself, and gosh knows where the Republican Party is going to be 5 years from now with this stuff. So good on Nancy Pelosi. If it doesn't cause the Republicans to actually change what they do, like don't put the person who thought these shootings were false flag operations on the Education Committee, for God's sakes, then at the very least, it will force them to pay a political price on some level. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Eric Levitz about the filibuster battle that has only just begun in the Democratic Party, and particularly in the Senate caucus. We'll be right back in just a moment. Today's sponsor, BetterHelp Online Counseling. They're giving our audience, if you are listening to the sound of my voice, you're getting 10% off your first month when you go to BetterHelp.com/Majority Report. Personally know multiple people who have used BetterHelp, and they're very happy they did. BetterHelp gives you access to their own fully licensed and accredited therapist via phone, chat, or video. If you've tried to get into therapy, and completely understandable, at any time. I've been in and out of therapy. I don't know if it's going to come as a huge surprise to anybody for decades.
Hey, look, I've tried therapy. We all gotta.
Well, and particularly now, though, and it is, people are under a tremendous amount of stress. It's getting that much harder. There's pandemic fatigue, but also very difficult to go find a therapist. Certainly have all the reason in the world not to want to go to see a therapist. Like I say, BetterHelp gives you access to your own fully licensed and accredited therapist through phone, chat, or video. A lot of therapists other places have long wait lists. It can take weeks or months before they can see you. But when you sign up with BetterHelp, they can match you with a therapist based on your specific needs, and you'll be communicating with them in less than 24 hours. And this is what happens. Once BetterHelp connects you with a therapist, if you don't think it's a good fit, for whatever reason, doesn't really matter what, at any time, you can switch for no additional charge. They have thousands of licensed therapists. They're available from all across the country. So they may have therapists who have specialties that aren't available where you live, let's say. BetterHelp also tends to be more affordable than therapists you find through traditional means. You don't have to have insurance to use BetterHelp, and they have financial aid options for those who qualify. BetterHelp is giving everyone in our audience 10% off your first month when you go to BetterHelp.com/Majority Report. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Majority Report. We will put the URL, it'll be clickable, in the YouTube link and, of course, in the podcast description. And lastly, this is one of those products I actually very much enjoy, and but I get a little bit. Here we go. I get a little bit bashful about talking about.
I do too.
It's the greatest love story ever told. It's the one between your butt and Hello Tushy. I did not write that. The brand new Hello Tushy 3.0 modern bidet attachment is eco-friendly, it's easy to install, and it's affordable. And all of that, frankly, is absolutely true. It is super easy to install this thing. It attaches right to your existing toilet, right underneath the toilet seat. You don't need any electricity. You don't need any additional plumbing. It cuts toilet paper use by 80%. So the Hello Tushy bidet pays for itself within a few months. And you don't worry if there's going to be some type of run on toilet paper ever again. It doesn't just cleanse your butt with a precise stream of fresh water. It cleans itself. And it does it before and after it's used with what they call the Smart Spray automatic self-cleaning nozzle. But it's enough to know that it cleans itself. It's super easy. Sanitation is simple. The Schmutz Shields offers easy cleaning. The knobs are naturally antimicrobial. Plus, every Hello Tushy bidet attachment comes with a 60-day risk-free guarantee and a 12-month warranty. You can upgrade to the new 3.0 model if you're already hooked on Hello Tushy. Or if you're new to the revolution, joins millions of happy customers right now. You'll have a clean butt with every flush. Look, it was really Kyle's fault. I will just say this, because he was bragging. He's like, I got a bidet, and it's amazing. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, it just seems weird.
Is this France?
It just seems strange.
Right.
Japan, it's huge in Japan.
Oh, Japan, yeah, too.
And then Hello Tushy was like, we'd like to advertise. And I said, you know what? I always wanted to try this. And I am now, I am a believer, true believer. For the rump you love to hump this Valentine's Day, give the gift of Hello Tushy. Go to hellotushy.com/majority to get 10% off plus free shipping. This is a special offer for our listeners. Go to hellotushy, TUSHY.com/majority for 10% off. hellotushy.com/majority. I love how seasonal the Hello Tushy copy is. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's perfect for Valentine's Day, I guess. Also, don't forget, you can support this program by becoming a member. Join themajorityreport.com. You get the free show, commercial free, and you also get extra content every day. Now, I would like to welcome to the program Eric Levitz. He is the associate editor, or an associate editor, at New York Magazine. We were just saying, Eric, that Em and I consider you one of our favorite writers.
Yeah, I think I always tweet every time he has a new piece, like, another great piece by Eric Levitz, and like someone's gonna put a mosaic of all the times I do it together, because it's just every time you write something, I'm always happy to publicize it.
Yeah, no, please don't ever stop. I need my self-esteem just inflated. It's like a balloon with a little hole that needs to constantly be blown into. So,
I've never met a writer like that, Eric.
Yeah.
With that said, you wrote a piece the other day. The Democrats' civil war over the filibuster has barely begun, this has been something that people have been talking about, filibuster reform, now from the days that Harry Reid was the Senate Majority Leader. Over that time, we have seen the end of the filibuster when it comes to federal judicial nominees. Then we saw it in terms of cabinet officials, and the latest was Supreme Court nominees. And now we're talking about the reform of the filibuster, legislatively speaking. Just for the sake of everybody, just lay out the land in terms of like why there has been this ongoing push, both from a generic perspective in terms of democratizing the Senate, but also from the specific perspective that we now find ourselves in, and particularly that the Democrats find themselves in the Senate.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think, just generally speaking, the 2016 election really drove home to a lot more people how our political system is really dominated by these counter-majoritarian institutions, right? I mean, we saw, 2000, Bush lost the popular vote, but won the presidency, but at least the popular vote was close. It wasn't 2 million votes, and then suddenly we're under the rule of this demagogue who is, the most unpopular major party candidate for president ever. So I think that just that combined with then just these broader trends that popular understanding of these trends has increased in part because of concern about Trump. But basically what we're looking at right now is that the U.S. Senate, because we have so many really low population, predominantly white, predominantly rural states in the middle of our country, which itself is actually a product of the Republican Party in the 19th century, the good Republican Party, gerrymandering the Senate by adding states in that area. But what this leaves us with in the current political context is basically just a severe overrepresentation of the Republican Party in the Senate, because now we have a politics that is heavily polarized along lines of rural versus urban, college versus non-college, and white versus a more multiracial coalition. And if not polarization on race, then polarization on racial attitudes and attitudes towards, do you sort of subscribe to a kind of white Christian conception of what it means to be American versus a more inclusive one. And these things overlap really pretty tightly, such that the Senate now produces a situation in which the median state, or the tipping point state in the Senate, if you do sort of abstract away and do these calculations, is 6 points, at least 6 points more Republican than the nation as a whole. Which, if you think about what that means, one way to put it is that the median voter for Senate control, the voter that Democrats need to win, if you had all 100 seats up at once and it was a open election, that median voter is probably someone who's voted for Trump twice. So that's where we're at.
You can also just phrase it in that the 50 votes that the Republicans control in the Senate versus the 50 votes that the Democrats control in the Senate represent 41 million less actual votes cast in their favor. I mean, that's
correct.
Pretty stunning when we talk about, never mind in a country of 300 million, when we talk about a country where less than half that vote in an election.
And a lot of that are along racial lines as well.
Yeah, of course.
What the push for DC statehood, obviously.
Of course.
And anchored on.
And so, all right, so that is the general argument. Talk about the specific argument in terms of like where we're at now. You speak in your piece that we could be looking at the last time that Democrats have this type of of even tenuous control over our government for at least a decade.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm coming through right now, but
wow, we hear
okay,
you.
Great. Yeah. So basically, what you have right now is that Democrats have eked out that 50 vote majority by, representing 41 million more people. But also from the legacy of you happen to have Joe Manchin in that West Virginia seat because West Virginia used to be a Democratic state, and Manchin is just a locally popular figure who has figured out a way to hold that seat, and then also had the good fortune of being on the ballot for his most recent term in 2018, when Democrats happened to engineer, with Trump's help, a national environment that was 8 points more Democratic than Republican, and that allowed Manchin to win re-election with 3% of the vote. If you have a more neutral, more regular electoral environment, as one would expect in a general election year in 2024, Manchin's performance that's not going to cut it. And so what you have right now is, we were able to just by the skin of our teeth eke out this majority with a seat in West Virginia that we have no business having, with John Tester in Montana, which is a similar thing. He's a very skilled politician, but we saw that basically we're in this moment where it's very hard to mint new Testers and new Manchins. And one theory for why this is the case, which we saw, by the way, this past year with Steve Bullock, popular governor of Montana. If anyone's going to be able to win there, you would think he would. It's not just that he didn't win, it's that he lost by more than 10 points. So we didn't come close. And the one theory for why this is all happening is that Democrats have always had a disadvantage because of the Senate, basically, because the divide between city and countryside is one of the oldest political divides in human civilization. It tends to have a conflict in the cultural values and economic interests, not always, but often. And Democrats, because they were the party of the urban machines, the trade unions, which were located in dense areas, they've always been the party primarily associated with cities. This has always been a disadvantage for them, but when you still had a solid South that was Democratic and aligned with Northern liberals for a brief period during the New Deal, you could solve that problem. Post, the Civil Rights Act, Democrats still were able to make things work by really localizing Senate races, finding good candidates with strong connections. And this worked in an environment where people got most of their political information from local journalism. In an environment where broadband internet, there's actually a study that shows that you show areas that got an expansion of rural broadband and those that didn't. And those that did, ticket splitting plummets. So when people have access to the internet, they gravitate towards nationally oriented, ideologically motivated media, and they suddenly become more ideological voters. They vote straight down ticket. They don't care that, the Democrats recruited a really charismatic guy who coaches Little League or whatever. They're voting on, stopping creeping socialism or whatever. Right. And so this has produced a situation where the outlook looks pretty grim for keeping the Senate in 2024, if not in 2022. The 2022 map is kind of favorable to us, but there's still going to be headwinds in being the in-party power. But the problem is that because the ultimate issue here is that the state lines are what's producing the Senate problem, that also means that Republicans control more state legislatures and governors' mansions than we do, which means that the House map is going to be gerrymandered towards Republicans because there's more places where they get to, do full-scale gerrymandering with no minority input than there is places where Democrats have the power to do that. So you're going to have a gerrymandered House map. You're going to have this really difficult Senate situation. And then slightly relatedly, slightly separately, the decline of, trade unions in the Midwest is creating this electoral college problem where Joe Biden basically had to win the popular vote, the two-way popular vote, by 4 points to have a 50% chance of beating Trump this past November. He just barely got by that. If Biden won the popular vote by 3.7%, Trump would have won re-election. So you're looking at a situation where by 2024, things could be very bad if Democrats do not give themselves the power to legislate structural change.
All right, we just We just Eric's internet cut out for a moment. I'm sorry, you cut out for 1 second. But I guess the bottom line is that the Democrats have the bottom line is the Democrats have this one opportunity to impact structural change that could help them in terms of election, whether that's voting changes in voting rights, expansion in voting rights, or whatnot. But it's also their last opportunity. There's an urgency here for them to get legislation passed and supposedly fulfill the mandate, if you want to call it that, or at least the agenda that is associated with the Democratic Party. And we have a situation where we now have two senators, Manchin and Sinema, who have come out and vowed we will not bust. And this is important. The verb is really important in this. We will not bust the filibuster. Now, assess that vow for us based upon two things. One, that they were also supportive of Chuck Schumer not going forward with Mitch McConnell's demand that they take busting the filibuster off the table for the organizing resolution at the beginning of the Senate. That and the concept of like, okay, reforming the filibuster is not the same as busting the filibuster. Reforming the filibuster is not the same as getting rid of the filibuster. Address those two things.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying that we should, have faith that Sinema and Manchin are playing a game and are not just, kind of really awful senators, or for Democrats. At least Sinema has no business. She doesn't have an excuse. Arizona's turning blue. But I think that there is significance in the two things that you pointed to, right? So for one thing, as you suggested, there was this fight over the organizing resolution. McConnell was holding the Senate hostage to try to get this formal written pledge that we were not going to abolish the filibuster this session. Manchin expressed support for Schumer's position that we're going to keep this out so that we have leverage in negotiations. Well, it doesn't really make much sense to view that as leverage if you truly 100% are not going to touch the filibuster, then you have no leverage. The other aspect is, again, like you alluded to, I think that there's a lot that you can do, and that we've seen that you can do to the filibuster without straightforwardly abolishing it. I mean, that's why we have this whole insane budget reconciliation process, right? That the Senate, the Congress gave themselves the permission to pass things by a simple majority in the Senate if they follow these specific rules. So one could imagine creating a new exemption such that all bills that expand voting rights or expand democratic democracy reforms are not subject to a filibuster. You can't filibuster that because we all remember that the filibuster was used against civil rights legislation. So it's really important to establish this principle that voting rights legislation, you can't filibuster that. You could imagine them restoring a talking filibuster, which would effectively make it, impossible. Republicans would need to sustain and hold the Senate floor continuously. There are things that you could do, and you could frame that as a restoration of Senate tradition, not a violation of it. So there are things that you could do if Manchin and Sinema are willing to play ball, but they have this thing of, we want to be able to say we didn't abolish the filibuster. There's room for maneuver there if they are actually team players, but we're not sure of that.
And the filibuster rules are that malleable? I mean, basically you can create a reality and a set of rules outside of, procedure to allow for something like that. I mean, I would imagine that there might be some pushback in terms of just saying, oh, we carved out judicial appointments and the Supreme Court picks from the filibuster. Like that's actually possible?
Yeah, so there's a couple constitutional constraints on what the Senate can do in terms of, like, Kamala Harris can't provide quorum for a Senate session, which creates some opportunities for McConnell to really create chaos, although I think there's ways around it. But beyond that, the Senate is sovereign over its own rules, and specifically Senate majorities are sovereign. So although there's existing rules, my understanding is a Senate majority can change the rules to anything that's not barred by the Constitution. So yeah, I believe that they can.
So Eric, so let me ask you this. I understand what you're saying when you refer to the potential of Sinema and Manchin just being bad senators, but let's get a little bit more explicit as to the why would they not? I mean, is it just this notion of like institutional fealty? Because I would imagine that it's very hard to make the argument that there's anybody who's not more of an institutionalist when it comes to the Senate than Joe Biden, right? I mean, and so if Joe Biden comes down to and calls up Manchin or Sinema and says, "Hey guys, there's a couple of things that we need to get done here," but what would be their, what are their interests that would be promoted by not in any way reforming the filibuster? I mean, I can understand why you would say, I'm not going to bust the filibuster, but I will reform it, because you want to promote this veneer of a brand that you have that is like, I am not some type of, radical flamethrower type of thing. And you want to maintain that brand, even if your constituents don't particularly care about how you vote for procedural. It just creates a brand that you apply to other areas. But what would be in their interest to not reform it? Is it just an extension of that theory, or what?
Yeah, I think it's partly that. I think it depends how much you're reforming it. So I think that one could see Manchin having an interest in immigration reform never getting a vote because, we don't have 10 Republicans, so I never have to take a vote on that. I never have to reveal to my really kind of weird coalition of actual Democrats in West Virginia and right-leaning independents that I actually have a specific position on that issue that's going to piss off half of them. Or a gun control bill or whatever. This is a shield against democratic accountability, and that's useful to some senators. But so if it's a tailored, filibuster revision, then I see that being less compelling. But I do think that's part of what motivates just general sort of across the caucus is there's a lot of issues that cross-pressure senators from their donors and voters from different voting blocs in their states. And it's very handy for them. I think one reason McConnell didn't abolish the filibuster himself is Republicans also really like not having to confront every issue where they assure their base they're for it and assure their donors they're not for it. So that's one function that the filibuster serves for senators. I'm not sure if that's the primary one here or not.
That's fascinating. And if you're correct in that speculation, then it's more likely we will see a tailored, a reconciliation style type of reform to the filibuster than a procedural reform to the filibuster, which makes it harder to implement. Right? There'll be issues of voting as opposed to immigration, or issues of healthcare as opposed to gun control, versus, the senator needs to be on the floor for 24 hours and then it knocks it down to 55 votes that you need or something like that.
Yeah, I think, this is all speculation. And I think that the big question is, ultimately, I think what you need as a precondition for reforming the filibuster is a specific piece of legislation that is popular, that has real strong support within the coalition, and you need absolute Republican obstruction of that, and then to have an opportunity for Manchin and Sinema to say, more in sorrow than in anger, McConnell has driven us to this place where what a sad day for the institution, but I have no choice but to whatever.
Do you have and just in closing, do you have a sense of what that bill would be if there are people in the Democratic caucus who have been, we've got the bill, we've got it on the shelf, we're going to deploy it in March, or we're going to deploy it in April. Has the planning gone that far? And if so, do you have a sense of what the timing and what the bill might be?
So I don't. I think that, there are things that are more popular maybe on the Democratic agenda, like, the $15 minimum wage if it gets rejected in reconciliation. But I think in reference to the stuff that we began with, the real push among Indivisible, among a lot of people in the party who actually care about the party's future as an institution, is the voting rights and democracy reform.
Oh, we've lost Eric again. Well, I think that's it. And in terms of the timing, I guess we will find out. Eric Levitz, folks, we will put a link to Eric's piece. The Democrats' civil war over the filibuster has barely begun. And now, if we have Edward?
We do.
Okay. I'd like to welcome to the program Edward Ongweso Jr. He is the tech and labor reporter at Vice Motherboard. Edward, are you there?
Looks like he's still connecting here, so maybe do we want me to play a short break while he connects?
Yeah, let's take a short break. We'll get him connected, and then we will go forward.
All right, here it is.
Edward Ongweso, he is the junior tech and labor reporter at Vice Motherboard. Eric, welcome to the Edward. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So, Happy New Year. So, Edward, what will you just walk us through? I mean, I think people have educated themselves on shorting stocks and Reddit more in the past 24 hours than perhaps people have done in a lifetime. But walk us through this as if I was A, too old to understand Reddit, and B, too financially illiterate to understand shorting.
Which certainly isn't the reality.
No, it's absolutely not in any fashion whatsoever.
So I think this begins with, GameStop being in of itself a company that for years has struggled to make profits. And it was last year they began to make some changes, adding members to the board, announcing strong, growth in e-commerce sales that made people think a turnaround was in the cards.
And GameStop is a retail place.
Yes, it's a game retailer.
And you would buy video games, and some kids would just hang out in there for hours and play.
Right. It's a lot of brick and mortar locations. So part of the excitement was closing down stores and shifting more to e-commerce. And it brought on a board member who is associated with, or who was the former CEO of Chewy, which is just pet food online retailer. There is a crowd of people online on Reddit in this sub-community called Wall Street Bets. They're basically day traders or small-time traders who invest and throw money into stocks that believe that there was value in this. And some of them took long positions. Some of them began to invest in it. At the same time, short sellers had been over time getting a little bit more greedy and a little bit more they were anticipating a drop in the price, right? They were saying that it wasn't worth the price that it was trading at, or that would be worth less. And so they're taking up positions over time to short the stock, basically to, in anticipation of it going lower, right? Borrow shares, sell them, buy them back at a lower price, and then return those ones and pocket the difference. So they began to short eventually until there was more of these short sales going on than there were actual stocks of GameStop. People in this community noticed.
Wait a second. I got to stop you there.
Yeah.
I get the concept of, all right, I'm convinced the stock is selling for $5 now. Today, January 28th, I'm going to make a contract with, unnamed people that on February 28th, I'm going to deliver the stock to you at $4. And that's the deal I make. And I'm betting that the stock is actually going to drop down to $3. And I'm going to make that extra buck by selling it to these people who have agreed to buy it to me from $4. How do you control more stocks to deliver a month from now, let's say, whatever the term is, than exist? Like, how do you fulfill that? I don't understand that concept.
Yeah, that's part of the problem that emerges. Part of it is that you can technically borrow shares. So I can go to someone's broker and I can borrow shares that they've given to someone to hold themselves, if they haven't already said, like, don't let my shares get offered up to anyone who needs them for a short sale, that needs them to be lended. There are also companies that offer lending programs where you can give up an asset and someone else can give you collateral equal to the market price, and they can hold it sometimes for the short sales as well. But it really just comes down to this is a thing that happens sometimes, but it's not usually noticed and seized upon, and there's never some sort of like attack in response to it. It's usually a hedge fund might do it, but they'll also cover their asses a bit with other positions, or covering the contract itself with more stock, figuring out ways to hedge the bet. And the hedge funds that were up against the Reddit community, Citron Research, Melvin Capital, two of the bigger ones, were famously uncovered, in these positions. And Citron in particular, tried to taunt, I guess, or goad the investors by saying they didn't know what they were talking about, that in reality, they knew what the real value was.
So Citron and Melvin make a bet that the stock is going down lower, and they're willing to deliver the stock, let's say a month out. Actually, I think it's going to be tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're going to deliver it to you at a certain price. We're actually convinced it's going to be lower by then, so we're going to make some money off of that. How do people on Reddit or people anywhere, how do they become aware that Melvin and Citron own all of these, or have shorted the stock in this way? Is Melvin going out there and Citron going out there bragging that they have? I mean, as a way of essentially driving down the value of the stock, right? Or no? I mean, why else would you tell people?
That's part of the thing. Like, there is a practice or a ritual where, you do all this research, or you put out a report where you're like, oh, I did all this research. This is why the stock isn't actually worth this and it's worth less. And that is supposed to act as a catalyst and drop the price down to a level where you can then profit off of. And the community, from what I can see, found out through just like, digging, essentially. A lot of places put their positions online also. A lot of stocks there was someone who was insisting that it had value and why they thought it was going to grow and why they took this long position. And it was partly through this person guiding people through it that they realized that there were more shares being shorted than shares existed. And that led to, a domino effect where eventually they realized with Citron and Melvin began buying the shares to increase the price, which then forced these hedge funds to buy more shares to cover their contract, because if they didn't, they would have had, they would have lost the whole thing, and they would have, been left holding the bag. And then it just became a squeeze, essentially, where the price gets pushed up, and they're still trying to hold on their short, and they're not going to close out the position because they want the money. So they keep trying to convince people, to drop the stock, to sell it, and they weren't able to. And the stock began to skyrocket about a week ago, right? Or, a week to 2 weeks ago.
So this is fascinating. So what happens is the people get wind of the fact that Citron and Melvin are exposed.
Right.
Start pushing up the stock. Citron and Melvin start to panic a little bit because they're like, we're supposed to deliver this stock at half the price it's at now, and it seems to be going up. So we're going to buy some, which then pushes the stock up more because everybody else continues to do that. So this is sort of like the weird thing about this is that it seems like similar to a pump and dump on some level, at least from the perspective of the Reddit buyers, that they all buy it to get other people to buy it, to push it up. But it seems like a lot of the Reddit people are not doing the dump part, which suggests that their motivation isn't totally about making a huge killing off this, that there's another agenda going on. Explain that.
Yeah, I think there's like a few moving parts here. One, there are some who want to make the money, but realize that they have to hold past a certain point to really make the money. And then there are others who are just like angry, I would say, or, justified rage at, the fact that short sellers and other financial, players are allowed to do this sort of thing, and they're hailed for it or they're praised for it. But when a community of day traders essentially does it, then it results in a huge amount of backlash and complaining and crying on the business press channels about how this is, the end of capitalism or the end of free markets. And I think that, when you go through the subreddit, you also see a lot of posts from people expressing that, they lost money in previous, panics or, market downturns, or they're angry at the fact that, traders are allowed to get away with so much, or they don't have much money themselves. And so a loss for them is not as big as a loss will be for a hedge fund. Like they'll put $600 into a few stocks of GameStop, but it will help contribute to this moment where they're going to, basically take billions away from these funds. So it is a bunch of things moving together, but definitely I think a core catalyst is like people with not too much to lose, pretty furious at like largesse and greed coming from these few firms.
Well, it is a form of activism, I think, even though, yes, there are going to be some big firms like BlackRock that benefit substantially from this, but I wanted to talk about that double standard a little bit based on the updates today that Robinhood and other organizations have halted trading. It seems like they're not halting selling, which allows the stock to go down, the price to be driven down of what all of these Redditors were buying, like GameStop, AMC, Nokia, other stock like that. And so that seems to be, I know Rashida Tlaib and Ocasio-Cortez have now tweeted about this, and Ted Cruz saying that this needs to be investigated. That seems to be much more substantial market manipulation than some Redditors taking down hedge funds in a targeted way. This has ripple effects with the market, especially over the next few days.
Yeah, I think it's pretty blatant manipulation, at this point, to halt the trade so that only sales can happen. It'll drop the price low enough where a lot of these funds or short sellers might be able to cover their position at a better price and not take so huge of a loss. And also, it's kind of like maybe not a half make, but a last minute attempt, I feel, to stop this. On Friday, a lot of the shares that they borrowed were going to come due, and would have likely knocked out more hedge funds, right? And so to do this at the very last minute might free up or scare people enough to sell enough to cover those shorts and save them from, eating their lunch on this. But it is, I think, at the end of the day, like pretty obviously blatant, hypocrisy, right? People get incredibly mad when individuals do this sort of speculation, but companies do it all the time, and that's their business model, right? Hedge funds do this; that's their business model. Private equity is allowed to do it. Investment firms, asset managers are allowed to do it. Nobody blinks an eye.
How is shorting a stock? I'm sorry, just how is that shorting a stock to a point where you have so many of these shorts that people are discouraged from even investing in a company like GameStop, right? Mm-hmm. How is that not market manipulation in and of itself? Because they are basically making that stock, that company, so toxic because they're shorting it at such an inordinate rate.
At the end of the day, it's like really clear in my eyes. There are some people who will defend short selling as, part of efficient market or whatever, but at the end of the day, this is just like another technique or another tool that is used by traders and by large firms to move capital, as fast as possible into their own pockets, right? And we can dress it up as they do in a lot of fancy, logic or rationale about how it helps the market stay, functional. But it's okay when they do it, but when other people do it, and not even as an organized fashion, right? With not even as much capital behind them, targeting maybe one or two firms, that's the end of the world. And that sadly might result in more regulation than the fact that these firms have been doing that for years and years and years.
That is what is astonishing. You have a bunch of people, certainly, like you have outlined, there's a bunch of motivations as to why they did this, right? Including, I want to make some profit. I see a weakness in their position. And other people who are now, and it seems like it's garnered even more energy, this idea of like, actually, this is really more about screwing this big player, these big players, and essentially saying to the market, despite the fact that you have all the capital and you have all the power, we have figured out a vulnerability here. If you are motivated by the fact that you feel like the system has been rigged and you're exploiting a weakness, and then the system comes in and says, actually, now the referees step in and go like, hey, we're only going to let the team that has players over 7 feet. We've just changed it. There's no more field goals. There's only you have to touch the rim for the points to count. I mean, that's stunning. And what happens? All right, it's all well and good that they can shut this down this time. I mean, I would imagine there's going to be even more sort of people power in these Reddits who are going, we're going to find the next one. We're going to do this again. And then we're going to do it again. And we're going to do it again. I mean, they can't keep shutting down purchasing or selling depending on what the big players need. This is not sustainable now, is it?
Yeah, in all honesty, let them do it. I'm not going to shed any tears if another few hedge funds collapse. If they're being, especially the ones that are, greedily trying to short more than the shares in the company, actually has. And in all honesty, this is the backlash that they're going to deserve. GameStop is a bit unique because of a bunch of like perfect storm of events and people who amplified it or were able to get others to trade onto it, but to so blatantly try to kill it so that you can protect, essentially, protect the bottom lines of a few hedge funds that were caught, fucking up. Essentially, there's really no defense for it, and I think that it is going to get worse in all likelihood. I can't see that community or all the other people involved in this just simply going, well, I guess we just gotta not do it again because TD American or Schwab or Robinhood decided that we can't do it. That's only going to add more fuel to the fire.
Well, this is like a great issue for somebody to champion and have hearings on the fact that maybe it's a bad idea to be shorting more stocks than are actually physically available for a company. And it's also, if you're going to function as a broker, the idea that you're going to all of a sudden like curtail services on any given moment to help a certain buyer or seller seems illegal.
I mean, how are you going to make money? How are you going to make money if you can't do any of that?
Good point. I forgot about that. Very
All right. Well, Edward Ongweso Jr., thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And we will link to your writings over at Tech and Labor over at Vice Motherboard. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right. We got to take no, I guess we're not taking a break. I mean, this is I love this story. It is it's an amazing story. I mean, I don't know if I would call it activism because I don't think that there is any type of sort of structural change that these people are pushing for, but I do think it's just revenge. It's just revenge, and it is definitely they are not motivated. I would imagine many of them are motivated by making money, and they certainly were originally. But I think that the added motivation there is some seeking of some form of justice. Maybe it is activism. I don't know.
I mean, does activism have to necessarily have one specific goal in mind? I mean, you could argue that this is like an extension of what Occupy was, which was, I mean, I know it's not because it's often.
Well, there's no structural reform. I think these people are going after. I think it is more they want to just punish these hedge funders. Although,
but punishing them for shorting more stock than is available for a company, I think that. Like the punishing is a tacit admission that they want some sort of structural change.
Maybe they'll get it at the very least. It seems to me that if you're going to name your company Robinhood and you deploy, you change the ability for people to purchase this stock for the benefit of massively wealthy hedge funders and their funders.
And Robinhood has this reputation in New York. I mean, they just did that massive COVID benefit with Tina Fey, like earlier in the year. They try to portray themselves as equitable and a kind Wall Street. This might take a hit. That reputation might take a hit right now.
It would be very interesting if the phone company came in and said, we're not going to allow outgoing calls from Robinhood's offices. You just got to hope that a crisis manager calls into you and offers their services. That's it for us today. We will be back tomorrow with more. For Emma and myself, see you then. And again, of course, if you missed any part of this show, you can see it replay at 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. on the Peacock app, the Choice channel. Meanwhile, we will be heading into the fun half momentarily, wherein the entire crew will guide the ship to its landing, as it were.
Where are we landing?
I was going to say, there's a lot of mixed metaphors there that I didn't quite work out before. Guiding the ship of the fun half across the stormy fun seas. Folks, just a reminder, this program...
Easy there, Melville.
Yeah, how do you feel, Matt, as the Literary Hangover podcast host? What do you think about
Not quite Joseph Conrad there.
Do I get an F for Friedman on that? On those mixed metaphors? You can support this show by becoming a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you get the free show, free of commercials. You support the free show, and then we give you extra content virtually every day. JoinTheMajorityReport.com. Also, don't forget amquickie.com. Get 7 minutes headlines every morning delivered to your podcast service. Or you can sign up at amquickie.com, or you can just search, I don't know, Stitcher or iTunes or Pocket Casts or podcastapp.com, whatever it is.
Really
you can find
loose today.
Yeah, I know.
Jeez.
And justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Don't forget, tune in to Nomi's show today. You can find it on Twitch or YouTube, the Nomi Key Show. And on that program today, John Nichols. Oh, wow. From The Nation magazine. He's great. Long time guy I've been interviewing for years. He's terrific. He's out of Wisconsin. Representative Chris Robb and Aaron Chaudhry will be joining Nomiki 3 p.m. on YouTube and Twitch. Jamie, what's happening on the Antifada?
Well, this week on the Antifada, we had on Jared Shanahan and Zana Kurti from the Hardcrackers Journal to inaugurate our new era of unrest. We talked about the origins of the journal in the work of Noel Ignatieff on whiteness and the abolition thereof, race treason in the George Floyd uprising, and finally, the January 6th Capitol siege and how the left can take insurrectionism back from the Trumpist pretenders. That's out now. Patreon.com/TheAntifada. We got a bonus coming out on Friday. That's tomorrow as well, with more of our awesome guests. Also, we had a really good Twitch stream last night, twitch.tv/TheAntifada. My friend Kay Gabriel from my caucus, Emerge in DSA, kind of gave a defense of the defund the police campaigns, because believe it or not, we've had on some guests lately who were critical of it from an ultra-left perspective. So I thought it was important to bring someone on who has a different perspective and is also a communist. And that's still up. We're going to put that out in podcast form probably. And then tonight, oh my God, it's tonight. I myself will be moderating a teach-in presented by Emerge, DSA Emerge, my caucus. And that is with Assad Haider, editor of Viewpoint magazine. And it's about communist politics in our time. So you could check that out. Oh God, I'll put a link in the episode description because there's not a tidy URL that I can say.
Check out the podcast description for that full slate on the Antifada. And old Matt, first off, old Matt Binder,
Hello, Sam.
Host of Doomed. Matt put out a video last night. Was it last night? Time is really.
It was like the afternoon I put it out, but it was yesterday. Yes. A
great video on the Boogaloo Boys, because there's been, I'm not sure if people are aware, for those of you who are not on Twitter 24/7, there has been some controversy about the Boogaloo Boys, and very important for you to understand who they are.
I saw that, Matt. Really good job.
Whether you're a host of a talk show that's platforming them or not, it's important to know
or an
who they are.
enabler.
One would imagine if you were doing this professionally, you'd have a notion of who they were, or you'd be interested in who they are. So send this to whoever you think might need to know who the Boogaloo Boys are. But honestly, Matt, it was really well done. I thought it was very fair. You weren't picking on anybody in any way, because some people they are sensitive to these things. But you,
I don't really care to go after Jimmy. That's not the point. The point is that there are people who heard him talk to that Boogaloo Boy, and that Boogaloo Boy succeeded in reaching out to those Jimmy Dore followers and listeners and viewers, whatever Jimmy Dore calls his fans, those Doreites. And, and I see them online talking about maybe we should work with these guys. Maybe we should reach out to more white supremacists and right wingers and see where there's, ground we can agree on. I mean, yeah, there's some basic stuff everyone agrees on. I mean, we all need to eat, don't we? But I mean, that doesn't mean that you unite with them or give them a platform publicly to just espouse whatever they want without providing any real pushback or criticism.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. And you made that point that, like, it's one thing to reach out to individuals as, Bill, Tom, Mary, or Betty as individuals, but it's another to reach out to organizations or people who are there representing or, unofficially or officially representing organizations. That's the whole point. Right. As individuals, yes, we should reach out to everybody. I am all in favor of people going and, trying to convert or build relationships or organize with individuals who may, hold ideas that I disagree with, because that's the way that you get those people maybe to not hold those ideas. But when you platform an organization, then what you're doing is validating the organization and their principles. So what's happening on Doom besides that amazing video that you made that people can find, I would imagine, where?
All right, go to youtube.com/Matt Binder to catch that video. It's not, it's a video, so it's not going to come out as the podcast version of the show. It's about 15 minutes long. I want to push that this week. Go to youtube.com/Matt Binder for that video. Also, if you'd like to support me doing future stuff like that, I would love to do more videos like that. Patreon.com/Matt Binder to, toss me some money to motivate me to do more of those.
There you go. And new Matt, what is happening in your media empire?
Yeah, tonight 8 Eastern at the Left Reckoning YouTube channel, we're doing a live show. We have Jennifer Pan of the Jacobin Show. We're going to be talking about leaving the culture war behind, and also some of this topical Biden and GameStop stuff. So that's tonight at 8, the new time for Left Reckoning. YouTube.com Left Reckoning.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920 is the number, and these guys will see you in the fun half, and I will see you on Friday. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous? You're a little bit upset? You're riled up?
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude. You want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
Some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 238. 56, 27, 1/2, 5 eighths, 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy.
Dance, dance, dance.
Rand Paul.
I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. I want to take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agreed.
No.
Death to America.
You.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way. Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook. Throw our hands up.
Ooh.
Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey, shut up!
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? Jamie, Emma, Matt, Brendan.
Hey. I don't know. Am I ever that great these days? I'm good for 2021. Let's just say that. I'm excited about the things that I'm working on. I'm excited about my Emerge teach-in that I'm doing later tonight. And yeah, fine. It's fine. I'm fine.
I will say I haven't seen the Joker, but this GameStop thing does have me feeling Joker-fied. I think I'm understanding a little bit what people are thinking. Like, I really hate. I was saying on Twitter, there's numerous instances in my life when people have come into money for some reason, whether they had a loved one pass or they got a new job, and they came to me like asking me because they knew what I do, as if like I knew how to invest in stocks, and because they thought what they need to do with that money is immediately start speculating it. And I think it's really sick. I hate the speculation stuff, and so like I want it all to burn down, honestly. Like I think it's really gross that we've trained entire generations to not be able to expect a materially comfortable retirement without speculating the meager wages that they've been given over their lifetime. So all this stuff, I mean, yes, burn it all down, because this is not how money should be made. This is not how like food should be put on people's tables.
Right. No, absolutely. And even like to pull back a little bit, because that's like, in the broader picture, to pull back a little bit, the idea that people even make money off of, in the system we currently have, the idea that people make money off of betting on a company, meaning people's lives are at risk here too, their livelihoods, on companies failing.
Yeah.
Seems absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, that's true too, but even like passive income as a concept, like other countries like Europe, that's called unearned income, which is a better name for it. Like this whole concept, like I want it to flounder. And I love that it's being embarrassed right now.
And it's also like, Matt, just to piggyback on your point about betting on companies to fail, this hedge fund bet on companies to fail by buying like more than there were even stocks available, like over 100% of the shorts. And so it's just like an absolutely sick concept that seems like it should be illegal, but is completely normalized in terms of hedge fund culture. Well, I mean, if there is any regulation that comes out of it, it should be addressing that shit. Nothing that's, coming out of Reddit, obviously.
Well, okay. Maybe this is a contrarian take, but this is literally just capitalism. Like, this is the way that capitalism has developed. There's a reason all this speculative money is going into these wild deals built on sand, because it has nowhere else to go at this point in time. So if you don't like this, you should be working to overthrow this system, because that's what's going to keep on happening. That's just what capitalism is. And, you know, our friend Daddy Marx actually played the stock market from time to time. I saw a quote going around that I thought was kind of funny. Who is basically, he had the same attitude that these people did. He was like, lol, this is monopoly money. It's all fake. And stocks have existed for, you know, basically as long as capitalism has, but all of these insane financial instruments now that don't make any sense, right? Like, I was trying to make sense of this stuff, and I think the main reason why it's so crazy to most people is because you're trying in your brain to connect it to something real. And then you realize eventually, oh, it's not connected to anything real. It's all fake, and the rules are insane. So that's why it doesn't make sense to me, because it actually doesn't make sense.
All right. Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing now is people just basically, you know, they're using the system itself in a way to try to benefit themselves and hurt, you know, these hedge funds, which is good. But yeah, they're working within the system. This isn't going to overthrow everything, as we saw when the cards are stacked against the hedge funds. They could just restack the deck in their favor, like they did by shutting down buying shares on Robinhood and all these other apps that retail investors use.
I mean, the existence of hedge funds at all implies a too great existence of capital in private hands, in like people that can't do anything productive with it.
For sure. But you want to talk about passive income. That's also a basic facet of capitalism,
That's
right?
the whole point, yeah.
The capitalists don't do anything. The workers create all the value, and the capitalists get to skim off the top. And then they pretend like, oh, we're job creators. You need us, because, you know, before capitalism, everyone just starved to death because they didn't have any money or bosses.
Well, yeah, we invent this way of people earning passive income, like we'll get everybody involved in it, and their retirement will be sorted out, as if we hadn't already like figured out how to do that, which is just publicly provide people with the means to retire.
Well, I saw that Ryan was tweeting out concern about pensions, which like seem like they barely exist anymore anyway. But the fact is that we privatized pensions. Pensions weren't always a part of the stock market, but now they are, because you had consultants come in from actuarial firms and other areas that said, oh, you know, maybe we could juice up these pension funds, and also the companies would be less liable if we invested them in the stock market, as opposed to it just being like the company's responsible. And so, yeah, I mean, like, the small fraction of people playing with this monopoly money does have ripple effects on people's 401ks and whatever's left of pensions at this point.
That's so bad.
It's been worse for people's retirement, like the whole bargain with finance. But finance loves to point to it, say, hey, it's not just us like getting extra Coke money. It's, you know, your retirements and stuff too. And like they mainly use it for the PR value.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
Absolutely.
it's holding people hostage via the retirement accounts of regular people. So then they say, oh, see, we need to put a bunch of public money into this thing. Otherwise, you know, your retirement accounts that we are holding hostage are going to tank, and you're going to have to feel bad.
Can we just briefly acknowledge this Robinhood thing? Because right now, Robinhood shut down the ability to buy stocks for AMC movie theaters, games.
I'm not doing too good. Yeah. I downloaded Robinhood for the first time yesterday because I was like, listen, I've never bought a stock in my life. Right. But if these guys are crying, I want my fingerprint on it somewhere, you know? So I purchased some stock.
Trade. I bought Nokia on E-Trade, and luckily E-Trade isn't actually, you know, part of this insanely corrupt market manipulation. But like, it's the fact that they stopped buying but are allowing selling. It's allowing people to drive the price of the stock down, and so all of these Redditors and people like me and Matt to lose the chump change that we threw at this. And it's absolutely illegal and ridiculous. Will they face any consequences? I don't know. But right now there are lawmakers, progressives like Rashida Tlaib and Ocasio-Cortez, who are calling it out. And then Ted Cruz responded to AOC Brendan and Matt, I don't know if you have the tweet. Ted Cruz responded to AOC like, I'm willing to work with you. And this was her response to Ted Cruz. I'm happy to work with Republicans on this issue where there's common ground, but you almost had me murdered 3 years ago. So you get this one out. Happy to work with almost any other GOP that aren't trying to get me killed. In the meantime, if you want help, you can resign. While you conveniently talk about moving on, a second Capitol Police officer lost their life yesterday in the still raging aftermath of the attacks. You had a role in. This isn't a joke. We need accountability, and that includes a new senator from Texas, which is just freaking awesome because Cruz is trying to slither his snaky way out of what happened and his encouragement of the violence and the insurrection and trying to jump on AOC's bandwagon. And also this Princeton smug little shit trying to brand himself as a right-wing populist, which doesn't exist.
Oh, you know who else?
His wife is a managing partner at Goldman Sachs.
Right.
I know.
I mean, come on, man.
Wife who his beloved president called ugly, lest we forget. So, like, please, as if he's actually in good faith interested in holding Robinhood or any of these market manipulator big companies accountable.
Unfortunately, if AOC is only willing to work with the GOP members of Congress who don't want to try to get her killed, then I think she just has should put Lisa Murkowski on speed dial, and that's about it. Because
this is why we're saying bipartisanship is dead.
No, I was going to say she needs to reach across the aisle. You know, people have differing opinions on whether AOC should be murdered, and you should respect all of them.
Right.
Listen, just post, open up a burner account on Facebook. Post about how these hedge funds are really eating babies and trafficking them all around the world, and then have someone share that to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then she'll be right on it. That's when she'll start sharing.
No, seriously though, that is a facet of all this conspiratorial thinking. But don't get it twisted. Just because people hate the elites on Wall Street does not necessarily mean that they have good politics.
Right. Oh, well, Don Jr. jumped on this too, and he tried to make it about big tech and corporate media. I mean, I get the big tech has a slight role in all. I mean, obviously in the stock market has a big role, but in this specific thing, it has a slight role. But what does the media have to do with this other than, like, we're seeing actually the current media landscape, which the GOP hates, is actually providing for the first time ever in the financial business media's lifetime, I'm sure, is getting pushback over how they're treating this. So I don't know what he's complaining about, because all you see actually are all these viral clips of, like, you know, the usual CNBC people going like, oh, woe is me. And then, but because of the age we're currently in, where people have a voice online and they're forced to actually invite some of these people who have influence online onto their show, you're actually seeing people push them back and say, no, you guys don't get to do this. You guys don't get to do this. You never whine when it's Main Street taking the hit, but now that the guys who've always got bailed out are taking a hit and they're going to get bailed out anyway, you're going to whine? Like, come on. Like, that would never happen in the old media world that the conservatives opine for.
Yeah, no. It's like a tweet that I saw that noted, when they're winning, they get to set the rules of the game. When they're losing, they get to hit the pause button. Yeah. And that's what they're trying to do right now. It's so good. Their tears are so delicious.
The pause button, like, it's also, I mean, it's completely illegal by any sense. I mean, the idea that they're trying to say that Redditors coming together and doing this informal thing is illegal, but the fact that one of the, like, premier day trading sites can just pause trade, not just, if they stop selling, that would almost be a different story. Just pause buying, so the stock is driven down. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, that is as illegal as it gets. And I said this earlier, like, Robinhood tries to market itself as a benevolent trading company. They do big fundraisers here in New York. There's billboards everywhere. They're all about the people, and it's in the name, and yet they're literally stealing from regular people right now and giving it back to the rich. It's the height of irony.
It's like a Robinhood, but opposite Robinhood.
Right.
And isn't their whole deal that they let you do stock trades as a consumer for free, but they're selling the information to big hedge funds so that they know what people are doing, like a few milliseconds before everybody else knows?
Yes, that's exactly it. The hedge funds and the big, trading organizations are able to get a heads up so that they don't get screwed over and lose the millions upon millions and billions and billions and billions that they're riskily investing, just as we saw with this whole GameStop situation. Like, maybe they should have hedged their bets a little bit, but but they never felt that they needed to do that. They never felt they needed to hedge their bets because the system is so rigged in their favor, and they felt they could go all in on shorting GameStop. Well, yeah, sorry, you got screwed.
Oh, and fun fact, nobody has actually tried to retire out of 401k yet. So we don't even know if that shit works. I didn't even know what a defined benefit pension was. My ex-husband had to explain it to me because he had one through his union in the building trades. It's a lot better. Spoiler alert.
Emma, did you see
we're being
that?
Scammed on a massive scale by these vampires. And
Emma, you're a sports person. Did you see that Portnoy of Barstool is trying to be a man of the people on this one? Mr. Union Buster, anti-union.
He's always trying to do that.
Yeah.
He's like a coked out day trader, and so now he's I mean, look, like I saw saw Manny Fidel on Twitter repost the meme to him, like his tweet saying heartbreaking, the worst person you know, just made a great point. Because he is like saying, fuck Robinhood, whatever. But
I mean, he's been like one of these people don't know, which is true, that anybody who says they know how to beat the markets is lying to you. They don't, and it's all a big lie. So he's been on that beat for a while. I mean, how populist that is, I guess, sort of depends on how many people you think are actually playing this sort of speculation game. I saw blogs saying this was the greatest distribution of wealth, like such like what the
let's not oversell it, but perhaps this is a good segue to get into some of these clips on the same subject.
Last point, though, really quick. It did bring Wall Street to its knees more than any piece of federal regulation has in like the past many decades. Like, that's how embarrassing our federal government is that they're more freaked out by a couple of Redditors than anything our senators or federal government has done.
And it bears out in these clips that we're going to play, because you see the ways in which they are completely unprepared to deal with this situation at their hands. They just are. And we've watched so many clips with politicians over the years where we can break down things and what they are actually saying in the sleight of hand. These people are not prepared in that same way to be attacked.
They're so mad. So, okay, let's start with number 9. And then we can pass them around. All right. On CNBC's aptly named show Squawk Box today, they had a venture capitalist on to discuss the hilarious Reddit prank that we've been talking about that led to the massive inflation of the price of GameStop stocks and the subsequent tanking of the hedge fund Melvin Capital, which had been short selling, which is to say betting against the stock. So let's see what kind of analysis he's got for us.
There's turnover, right? There are new people buying from the original guys that squeezed this thing. What's also interesting, and this is where I disagree with Henry, is there's a anger. I spent an hour last night on the Reddit chat, and it's shocking how angry, right? There's a nihilism that's going on out there, which I do think is reminiscent of the time. I think we saw it at the Capitol building. I think we saw it in Black Lives Matter protests. People are crying for system change. This is generational. This is millennials and Gen Z screaming at boomers, saying, you screwed up our planet, you screwed up our economics, you screwed up our future, and screw you. And so I think there's a lot going on here. Besides,
that's not nihilism. That's actually pretty much the opposite of nihilism. That's like actually people doing a pretty good job of finding meaning for their life.
No, that's a secondary meaning is, nihilism is systems change.
Right. Well, they're also trying to, I don't know if that was the clip, they continue, but I've seen screenshots on Twitter going around of like the chyrons and the boards going up about what they're talking about. And there's a lot of trying to connect this to like Trump populism. Yeah. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, well,
just like the whole idea that these guys, you have to remember, these guys believe that Trump was pushed into the presidency by this wave of angry economic populists, which is just bullshit. That's not what happened. But that's what they believe, so that's what they continue to push. So they see another wave of people, in their view, just angry at the system. Then they go, oh, this is the Trump all over again, when it couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, look, analysis.
I think there is some truth there, actually. Like, we have a populism that can come out in different ways, in different expressions, based on the people who are engaging with it. And I do think, at least rhetorically, there is an element of classic fascism in what Trump is preaching, because he tends to be very angry, dismissive, whatever, towards this international finance capital, this unreal stuff that dwells in fantasy land. Although, of course, as we all know, he's heavily invested in it himself. But he has this vision of America where we want to return it to this good old industrial manufacturing capital, this domestic stuff, making things. So on that level, I think there's some truth to that. But, the left and the right are against the establishment for completely different reasons. And it really raises my hackles when you both sides, Black Lives Matter, which points in the direction of human liberation and the overthrowing of racial capitalism, right? When you compare that with the far right, which actually represents a deepening of racial capitalism.
Right. I mean, I just don't like the idea of calling the right wing form of quote unquote populism at all. To me, it's just
gotta come up with a different name for it, because it's a real phenomenon, whether or not we agree. But populism does not necessarily mean good things. Populism can also be bad. It can go in either direction. And that's why we need a structural critique to know what we're actually against, beyond this vague anti-establishment, anti-elite sentiment. Otherwise, you end up like our friend Jimmy Dore saying we can work with the Boogaloo Boys.
I would say NPR isn't helping by calling this game, like somebody on NPR, I'm trying to look for it, but compared it to Gamergate and harassing hedge funders. Like, right.
Well, like, hedge funders are a protected class now. I love that. Like, I've seen takes as well, like, how dare you manipulate the stock market? This is something sacred. This is something real. It has a function. Like, there was one tweet from this guy who should have known better, who was like, if you manipulate it, that ruins the purpose of the stock market, which is to, make positive investments in companies that are doing well so that they can do innovative things with those investments. Like, no, most of the stock got issued a really long time ago, and companies don't see any of that money when you buy a stock. I'm sorry, I've just brushed up on this because I don't know a ton about stocks. How am I doing, guys?
Yeah, no, I don't. This is the most I've read about the stock market probably ever. I mean, and it's because this is so interesting. But usually, I mean, the deck is stacked against you. Why do you want to read about a bunch of people making out like bandits while you're just learning that you can't even play the game? It's not like you could pick up a bat and start and go to the cages for practice.
Oh, bring your change. Just bring your change down to Wall Street and they'll help you out with
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, fact check, they did it for the lulz. Like, this guy is acting like these people are just angry, humorless. No, it was fun. They did it for fun. It's hilarious.
Like what you said, though, if you read the Reddit, a lot of what people are saying is yeah, fuck these guys. They are rigging the system against us, and we're going to take it back. And that's why a lot of people are holding the line and not selling, even as Robinhood and other I forget who else, TD Bank or whatever, they're driving down the price. People still aren't selling, myself included, because fuck those guys.
Word.
Right. I love the idea that they they got that Gamergate reference from simply looking at the word GameStop and then looking at Gamergate and going, close enough, let's make a reference. There's nothing to even. Why do you even draw that conclusion? I mean, it's just unbelievable.
They're both online.
Right. How people
gamers.
how people are saying, like, oh, my dog was able to get surgery now. Like, I know that there's, yes, BlackRock got rich off this. I'm sure a lot of people who have immense, like, large companies that have immense capital, they're able to buy up all these stocks regardless of how much they're being shorted. They're going to make a ton off this. I get it. But there are some people who actually, like, did okay and made some money. And so I think that's awesome.
Let's play this clip while we're talking about it, because I saw this earlier, and obviously this is a billionaire CEO on CNBC, but this guy has his history of being obviously as much as a billionaire CEO can be. He's runs a venture firm called Social Capital or something like that, right? And he goes on there, and he has a take that surprises, I guess, CNBC. Let's play this clip.
Agree can see their stocks rise in this magnitude, and all of that is just fine, that there's nothing wrong with the integrity of the system if that is occurring?
The lack of integrity in the system is the precursor that caused GameStop to be sold short 136%, and for people to try to pile on and destroy a company in front of our eyes. That, to me, feels wrong. That feels pretty un-American, if you ask me. I think GameStop is a reasonable business. I think what they do is reasonable. And so the fact that they shouldn't be allowed to exist because all of a sudden, we decide that they should be obliterated into the ground.
Well, they should be allowed to exist. They should be allowed to exist at whatever their stock should be valued at based on what their earnings are. And the stock was
the free market
$17, $18 not that long ago.
Who says that? Who says that? Do you want to make the same argument about Tesla? It's gone 10x in a few months. You don't know what it's worth. Let's be honest. Okay,
you don't think that Tesla's growth prospects?
Scott, I have
Pause it.
For the company.
Listen to the difference there, though. He says shouldn't stock prices be based on the growth of a company in terms of their quarterly earnings or whatever. He says that when talking about GameStop, but then Tesla comes up and look, all of a sudden, you don't think that we should be looking at that for its prospects? Why does it work for one and not work for the other? Who's to say that GameStop doesn't transition? Because this is what the whole thing's about. GameStop is viewed lowly because they deal with physical games right now, and because of the pandemic, and honestly, just the way the video game industry has been trending for the past few years, everything's moving to digital. So the idea is that GameStop's going to go out of business eventually, so we're going to short sell it. It's a shitty stock. This company's going to go under. We'll make a ton of cash. But the thing is, some people have been saying, and there was the one investor I was reading, the guy who used to run that pet store Chewy before he sold it for a ton of money. He actually purchased into GameStop way before all this because he thought that they could pivot into having a business with dealing with digital goods and they'll be fine. So what's the idea here that these guys can't, if it's a stock that they're for, Tesla's wonderful, they are gonna base it on its prospects. But if it's something like GameStop, which they view as shit because they don't understand gamers in the gaming industry, they're just gonna go, oh no, that we deal with differently. That's based on what they're worth right now. It's just double speak for just defend the hedge funds and the finance guys that they're talking to.
And Matt, it's not even that that GameStop is actually as shitty as the stock reflected. It was because the price was driven down based on the other people in Wall Street understanding the insane percentage of the stock that was being shorted. So they were driving the price down, these hedge funds, with their immense resources. And yet this guy is so convinced that his religion, which is the market, has to be right, even though it's filled with all of the contradictions that we're talking about here. And he can't fathom it. And this guy, I'm sorry, the caller, he goes on the show, and his entire purpose is just to poke a bubble in these guys' worldview and realize that it's completely incoherent. And
I'm glad you brought that up because I was reading actually that GameStop turned a profit last year. They're a business. They made money. Why are they viewed as some failing business? Because the stock market says so. Just because these hedge funds say so. Is there more to that clip? Is there more worth? I don't recall how long it was.
I don't know what it's worth. Let's be honest. Okay,
you don't think that Tesla's growth prospects?
Scott, I have my own model for the company. I'm allowed to underwrite however I want to own it. Everybody that bought that stock is also underwriting how they want to own it. And the point is, just because you're wrong doesn't mean you get to change the rules, especially when you were wrong, you got bailed out the last time. That's not fair.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that these investors who were short the stock.
The gears
were
are turning. You're trying to figure out how
wrong.
to spin this.
I mean, I still haven't heard you. I still haven't heard
you
you
need a
tell me
bailout,
what
you're
the
wrong.
fundamental case is for GameStop at $350 or AMC theaters, which have been closed for months and months and months, is worth what the stock's trading at now, or any
because
number
of their
these
prospective
things,
growth.
The way that they're trading,
the theaters
there's
will open
no
up soon.
fundamental reason why they're there. They're trading because there's this momentum cohort behind it, whether it's on Reddit or Robinhood or wherever else.
But Scott, why is that all of a sudden so wrong to you, this kind of momentum trading? Because, for example, if you look under the hood on every quant strategy, organized, quantitative, strategic hedge funds on Wall Street, those things are all momentum shops.
Yes.
They trade day over day.
That's exactly it. I mean, that was the point I was trying to make earlier, but he knows more about that, the market. Like, it already happens. Market manipulation happens all the time. It's just like, wow, this happened. It was democratized and people on the internet did it. And then all of the players who normally make the rules that screw over everybody else, and they do it in cloaked rooms and they do it behind the scenes, like, then it affected them. And now I saw on CNBC, they're talking about we need some regulation against this. You know, we normally don't talk about regulation. We're not in favor of it, but now we need regulation. Oh, okay.
I also find it interesting usually how which companies are valued by a lot and which ones are shit upon by these guys. Like, you know, we could obviously critique capitalism and all these businesses, fine. But, you know, think about GameStop and AMC. These are businesses where the common person frequents usually, you know, and there's a you know, an equal transaction. I pay $15 for a movie. I enjoy an hour and a half of a movie. I think that's money well spent. Same for a video game. I pay $50-$60 for a game, spend hours of time playing it. I have fun. Good. Maybe I like those companies. I want to invest in them. Those are considered shitty stocks by these by these guys. But the ones that are with real value are like what, the big pharma companies that fuck us over by putting you know, making medicine, all this absorbent money and pocketing all that. Like what is considered, like what they consider to be businesses worth investing in and businesses worth all that money. It just doesn't reflect what everyday people view as the businesses that they frequent and the ones that they view as providing them with the most value too.
Well, no, it doesn't, but there's a reason for that. And I'm not going to get too in the weeds with this because I feel like it won't go well. But basically, the tendency is under capitalism for the rate of profit to fall over time on making things. And we've seen this borne out. We've seen this to be true. So what happened? All the capital, all that venture capital needs new places to go. And it invests in ridiculous things like Tesla and like tech companies whose future profits are fantastical. They're imaginary. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's built on sand. But they wouldn't be going there in the first place if it weren't for the fact that the profit on manufacturing is going down worldwide. And this has caused a drop in demand for labor. It's caused all sorts of horrible things. But there is a method to this. It's not an ideological decision. It's not an ideological reason why the capital and the money is going into these ridiculous pretend things. Like, this is a flaw that is baked into the system of capitalism.
We also shouldn't let it go past, now that Tesla's been mentioned, that Nancy Pelosi just bought a whole bunch of new stock options for Tesla, and that shouldn't be allowed. I mean, if I could summon popular anger, it would be toward her right now, because and any of these people, I don't think you should be able to own stocks. I remember last year when this COVID stuff was going on, we had all these stories about these Republicans who have been insider trading based on COVID knowledge, and then who comes up? Dianne Feinstein. And we hear, well, actually, it might have been technically okay and legal and above board. Bullshit. None of these people should be invested in any of these businesses. You disinvest in everything when you become a politician. I mean, if we need to pay politicians more, we should. Salaries, for instance. But like, I mean, you know my opinions. I would blow up the entire passive income economy. But if you're going to have an income into politics, especially as the leader of the House of Representatives. You shouldn't be buying Tesla options.
Yeah. I also appreciate that this billionaire CEO is on TV trying to do some populist talk. Maybe he's hedging his bets a little. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Running for governor.
He's been on before, and he usually has these takes. I think he's one of these, like, obviously we still want to take his money, but he's one of these these tech guys who has has empathy and a brain, it seems like.
Or wants to avoid the pitchforks.
He's running for governor too, in California.
Oh, he's running for governor? All right, then I retract what I said. It's
or is running for governor. Not mutually exclusive.
He also was at the start of the pandemic, he went on and they were like, all of the CNBC anchors were confused as to what to do to jumpstart the economy. And he was like, direct cash to people. And they were like, well, flummoxed.
Yeah.
So, not all equal, I guess.
Yeah, he's
whenever we can use these guys. Whenever we could use these guys to maybe try to shock everyone and go, a successful billionaire, know how normal people think of billionaires. Oh, this successful billionaire is saying this, then it must be good for the economy. Anywhere we could use those guys to get that reaction from the normies, I think that's good and we should take it.
Well, sorry, guy, you're still getting expropriated when the rev comes. So. It's nice that you're saying this stuff, but I see right through you.
Yeah, thanks for trading how much of a joke this entire.
Yeah, and for your governor run, you better actually do put some action behind those words. Otherwise, you're just another one of all those other billionaires.
Yeah, I looked at his. We talked about this the other day, and I looked at his platform because Brendan alerted me that it wasn't very good, and it's not very good.
Then this is totally for the political run.
We appreciate his service in terms of owning the smug CNBC anchors who are just like so steeped in this bullshit that they can't see straight.
Yeah,
he seems consistent, but it's like, he's riding on the Yang sort of UBI wave of new politics that's going to be coming in. So just keep your eyes open, I guess, is my point.
Boy, Yang.
I don't think there's anything super clear from a left perspective from even what I've heard him say. Like, of course, this stuff is ludicrously unfair, but it shouldn't exist at all. Whether or not it would be fair for these guys or not. Like, this speculation is ridiculous and it doesn't serve society.
Right. Absolutely. I can't believe the Yang has really made these guys all think they can do it too, don't they? It's I'm not even going to get into this. Let's not get into Yang today.
Can
Too
Yang
much.
do it even?
Yang's
just by running and being as successful as he was, however you want to define success, in the Democratic primaries. I mean, it's given all these guys the dream that they can do it too.
It looks like he's running for mayor of New York now.
It doesn't look like he is.
It sucks.
Where
it
have you been?
sucks so much. Well, all right, he is. He's doing it, and I've seen the polls, and they are horrifyingly good for Yang. And I don't like it. And I don't know what to do because, the DSA does not endorse in every race. And there's really not a candidate that it would make sense for us to endorse in this one. All we can do is just hope that Yang doesn't keep climbing.
I think he's not going to. He's tweeting out horrible takes and like doing this creepy bodega stuff.
And he's literally never voted in New York, right? I feel like stuff like that. I don't know. We'll see.
Bloomberg got elected 3 times.
Right.
But
sham.
he owns a media and financial apparatus. Yang is just some Silicon Valley.
I'm just saying, New Yorkers vote for horrible people all the time.
Did you guys see that when Yang tweeted his part of his campaign tweet? He was like, I went to spoke to a 23-year-old man in Queens. He just got out of a 4-year relationship and he was so sad. It's going to get so much better. I was like, what the fuck does this have to do with policy? What is
It's going for the Reddit voters, man. He's riding it at the perfect time.
If he could just be like the mascot of New York with no no actual political power, but he would just be like the royal family or something. He runs around doing doofusy things. I would be okay with that.
New York social media ambassador or something like that.
Yeah.
I would love to see some testy meetings between him and the NYPD commissioner.
Yes.
I mean, you really want de Blasio is completely rolled by that. You think Yang's going to be tough?
Oh, Yang got rolled for his bodega video and couldn't handle it. I mean,
which was a Wegmans, by the way.
Right. Yeah. Oh, you see his anti-BDS stance?
I think he's trying to self-sabotage to some degree.
Yeah, he's right. I'm just reading more about this guy who was on CNBC actually, because I honestly have just seen his CNBC takes, and he's a chairman at Virgin Galactic, and he's owner of the Warriors, Golden State Warriors.
Oh, really?
Boy, this guy. My view of him has certainly even tanked down lower.
Yeah. Speaking of another thing that should be abolished is sports team owners, municipal ownership, and player ownership, and worker ownership.
I know.
Hackers.
Your money in any way, it's like, and you're a billionaire. The least offensive one is probably owning a sports team, in my view, but that's obviously my biases.
Yeah, abolish the billionaire owners, because the last 2 days, the two owners of the teams I care about most, one was involved in this, backing Melvin before they failed, and the other one, the CEO at his hedge fund, had to step down after donating $150 million to Jeffrey Epstein.
Who? Teams, right?
That's Josh Harris.
Josh Harris, he's saying? Of
who owns the Sixers and the Devils.
Damn. The Devils, indeed.
It's a really good example, actually, of the stupidity of capitalism, right? Because it's something that's very easy for most people to understand. People who play sports professionally are very good at them. And they know what they're doing. They do all the work. They create all the value. And the people who own them don't do anything.
Yeah, it is. And for example, in the NBA, at least they're better. All the players get fully guaranteed contracts. In the NFL, they're like, if you tear your ACL, working hard, you're fucked. We're keeping it.
It drives me crazy that, like, I'm a big fan of both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I'm a big fan of defensive wings. And I have to watch Clippers games and see Steve fucking Ballmer behind the basket. Like,
yeah,
it's just an atrocity.
I have to root for fucking Steve Cohen. Like, now that he bought the Mets, right? I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a Rangers fan. It's like the most vile billionaire in existence is James Dolan. And so if I go to see a game, I'm paying James Dolan. That sucks. Anyway,
someone should do something about that.
Yes.
There's some crazy. This is unconfirmed, so I don't want to bring it up really. But there's some like crazy speculation about what's going on over at Robinhood, even more so in terms of. I don't want to bring it up because it's not confirmed, but it's
the appearance, at least, that it looks like they're like closing people out on their positions. Is that what
yes, that they're auto selling for people. It appears that, but it's unconfirmed. Yeah. Unconfirmed. That would be very illegal. I would think. I don't know what you sign up for with your terms of service when you sign up for that app. But
there's a big clause that says, "Let us decide." Let the capitalists.
Yeah, I don't know if that would even right. Yeah, I don't know. Whew. Oh boy, it sucks that this stuff is. I don't know more about it because I would like to talk more about it, but I just.
I think we know as much as we need to know.
I do think, like, I was very impressed. I mean, he's been killing it at Vice for a while, but Edward Ongweso, really, that interview today was excellent. I mean, his mastery of that stuff is great.
Did I say let's put that up later?
Oh yeah, we got it.
Okay. See if I can find the quote about Marx playing the stock market. It's so good. He's such a bro. I love it. Here's a short one. It's worthwhile running some risk in order to relieve the enemy of his money. Karl Marx, reflecting on his success trading the English stock market.
I like that mindset.
Do you guys want to play that? Because I just saw that clip going around too, the one that we're passing in the chat. I would love to see it because I see it's getting a lot of talk.
I can't mute myself because weirdly I'm wired through Sam's mic, so Sam's no longer here. But
just play it on the show. I'm sure it's good. Everyone's talking about it, so I doubt it's going to be.
Let's get a fresh reaction.
The reason Mark is doing what he's doing is people are sitting at home getting the checks from the government, okay? And this fair share is a bullshit concept. It's just a way of attacking wealthy people And, I think it's inappropriate. We all got to work together and pull together.
Wow. Meltdown.
Can we hear it one more time? It was so short. I got to hear it again. That was so great. What a whiny
I would just say,
baby.
just a way to attack wealthy people. I mean, we collect those around here.
The reason the market is doing what it's doing is people are sitting at home getting the checks from the government, okay? And this fair share is a bullshit concept. It's just a way of attacking wealthy people. And, I think it's inappropriate. We all got to work together and pull together.
Don't you just love the double speak from these guys, though? The idea of getting your fair share and everyone being treated equally is bullshit. Stop attacking the wealthy. Well, come together, everybody. We got to work together on this.
People getting their checks. Come together and stop hating wealthy people when I'm actively shitting on the idea of you getting any relief in the middle of a COVID pandemic. I mean, so this guy is hedge fund billionaire Leon Cooperman. That's him. That's that.
But hey, let's take the fact that the majority of people who receive those checks are putting it towards necessities and rent and food and things they need to live. But the ones who make, I don't know, maybe a single guy living somewhere in America that's fairly cheap compared to somewhere else that he's making, $50,000 to $75,000 because the checks start going away once you get that 75,000 point. Maybe he had that $2,000 to, for the first time in his life, have extra money to put into the stock market, and that guy with that $2,000 disposable income for the first time to put in the stock market is pissing off this fucker so much that he's going to go on national TV and cry about it like that. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. They are so scared of you getting a crumb. That's how scared they are of you.
Yeah, ask Leon Cooperman what he thinks about baby bonds or something like that. Getting some money when you're born and investing in the stock market. I'm sure he'd be very for that. I'm sure he's very even endorsed.
Yeah, right.
Now, let's stop being so divisive. All the exploited just needs to get together with all the exploiters and sing Kumbaya, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, let's work together with the people who will never in their life be caught dead in the same room with us, or would be scared of the lack of millions of dollars that would emanate from us.
And BT Dubs, I think tanking a hedge fund is a totally appropriate use of your stimulus money. And I encourage everyone to do it if they're trying to figure out what to do with that cash.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, the tanking of the hedge fund was really what we needed to just boost morale in this winter, in this COVID winter. Honestly,
right.
Boosted my morale.
Obviously, we would prefer it to go to community aid, but to the extent that there are people who aren't interested in that, destroying the stock market is another good secondary use for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right. I do love how whenever we try talking about this, Matt's always there to make sure that it ends on the footnote that, but the stock market needs to be destroyed. I appreciate it.
All this is lies.
No, it's so dumb. But this is what capitalism is, guys. I don't think we can make a better version of capitalism that doesn't have this stuff. This is the phase that we're in. It's gone too far. The only way to go is forward to a new system that actually makes sense.
No, I think we do a good job. We've been doing a good job of discussing this as both under the system we're in, but then also working towards a different system. I think we've been offering both critiques here. So I think I think we got it covered.
I just want to bring up a classic Bernie tweet here from 2016. Fraud trademark, the business model of Wall Street. That's
you see the Nick Kristof response when he said it in the debate. He was like, Bernie Sanders has gone. I retweeted it actually yesterday. It was from 2016 in the debates where Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times said that Bernie, that was very offensive. He's gone way too far calling fraud.
Yeah, well, Kristof.
Oh my God.
I'll never forget, actually, I don't know if you guys remember this, but in the very early days of the 2016 primary, we're talking even in like late 2015, Bernie had those set of ads that ran on TV that went really viral, and these ads sort of like put him in there as a legitimate contender. It was the ones where it starts on him and he goes, I call it a rigged economy or something like that. And that's what put him on the map. And in 2016, I remember all these people in the primary, all these people talking about the primary. What is Bernie talking about? A rigged system, a rigged economy? It was just like, are you kidding me? You guys don't remember just a few years ago in 2008? But then we're seeing it again now. Like, that's how right he is. Like, it's rigged against you. And honestly, I think this is even what's happening today. While it doesn't have the effects of 2008. To the vast majority of people, I think this actually shows even more so just how rigged it is. Because before it was, okay, when the system is rigged to the point where they'll be saved if they go under, because, they're saying they want to help save you in Main Street. And a lot of people take that hook, line, and sinker, even though it's bullshit. But this one is now showing you right to your face. If you try to play their game and you do well at it, they will stop you because they don't want you to do well at their game. Like, this one is so much more in your face in terms of what happens here, I think.
And if they believed in meritocracy, they would have told. Oh, I'm not.
Speaking of Emma Stephen Cohen, I'm not feeling the love on this site today. Trading is a tough game, don't you think?
Pretty Andrew Yang tweet of there. Just like weirdly naive and insulated and attempting to be innocuous. Odd.
What is this Professor Galloway, Scott Galloway tweet in here? I don't.
Oh yeah, this is all because women aren't sleeping.
Oh, this was getting to your point that there are a few guys who make, a decent living who are speculating on the market and like just doing it to, for the online reasons. And he offers a corrective on that, or a solution to end that sort of behavior.
It's about sex? What? What is this?
He says, yeah, sex creates obligations like fatherhood. And I mean, it's kind of like a Jordan Peterson style analysis, really.
Wait, what?
This is the most bizarre thing in the world. They
need to see this.
All these people did was open up an app on their phone and buy stocks, just the same way that all these other stock market day traders can do it. And it really is bothering these guys so much.
It's a big honeypot.
Angry young man is the most dangerous person in the world. Like, so he's making this about he's saying that they're incels on Reddit.
Some of them might be, but that's not why they're doing it.
I love dunking on these on the incels more than maybe anyone, but this is not what that is. I mean, these people are so out of touch.
I know.
They're so out of touch.
I mean, congrats on the sex, dude. But I don't really think that has anything to do with it.
I mean,
this is saying we got to socialize girlfriends.
I can see where he's coming from. Like, a lot of this is, as much as we like it, this is kind of an online activism, right? That is the result of everyone being in an atomized society where they don't talk to each other IRL.
Not his critique, though. I mean, that's like a legitimate critique about it. This is just like it's a critique from a negative place.
Well, it's the common fuzz that capitalists do, which is like anytime a structural critique of the system comes up, they'll pathologize it somehow. People can't have kids. Well, maybe we shouldn't have indebted entire generations right in their childbearing ages.
Yeah, that's true. Like, millennials are having fewer kids because we have no money and a lot of us have no future. So what do you expect us to do, huh?
I was just reading actually that there was like a analysts or experts or whoever the fuck looks into this. They were expecting a baby boom because of the pandemic. And I saw a paper or something that came out just the other day. I was reading an article. Didn't happen. It didn't happen. Even with the pandemic, everyone was like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm still not doing that. Still not doing that.
I have the full quote from Marx if you guys want to see it. It's pretty good.
I think you've been thinking about this Marx quote since we started.
I put it in the chat. Yeah. This is a hilarious post. It says Marx literally played with stocks instead of working and justified it to his friends like so many modern posters. And he said in a letter to Lyon Phillips, 1864, I have, which will surprise you not a little, been speculating. partly in American funds, but more especially in English stocks, which are springing up like mushrooms this year in furtherance of every imaginable and unimaginable joint stock enterprise, are forced up to quite an unreasonable level and then, for the most part, collapse. In this way, I have made over 400 pounds, and now that the complexity of the political situation affords greater scope, I shall begin all over again. It's a type of operation that makes demands on one's time, and it's worthwhile running some risk in order to relieve the enemy of his money. So the more things change, the more things stay the same.
I mean, I don't even think he needed that explanation. It's just the idea that you can't buy a stock living under the system. It's, to me, it's sort of like the same thing like, oh, curious, you want things to change, but you own an iPhone. It's like, yeah, because this is where we live and this is the system we're under, and I need to exist in society. Right. And if you see these rich Wall Street fuckers making out like bandits in the stock market, and then an opportunity arises where you can also make a little income from it, then screw it, go for it. Why should you let all these guys take advantage of it?
Yeah, and Marxists understand the economy better than anyone else, so it makes sense that they would know how to play it, right?
It's interesting. There's for George or for Hobsbawm's History of an Idea, the one that he did about communism as an idea. The preface has him relating the story where George Soros came to him, asking him what Marx knew about capitalism. This was after the financial crisis a decade ago. But yeah, it's true, right? Like, Marx didn't just hate capitalism; he recognized it as insanely productive, and that would ultimately doom it. So of course he's going to cash in on it a little bit when it's, humming along nicely.
And someone pull up that quote about what Karl Marx said about Dogecoin. I'm just joking.
Yo, what is Dogecoin? Because I've been told I should invest in it, and it sounds hilarious.
It's literally a cryptocurrency that sprung from the Doge meme.
What is it? It's backed by a meme. It's backed by memes.
It's nothing. It's backed by nothing because it's cryptocurrency. But the reason why people love it is because it's super cheap. Before today, actually, you could get a share for under a penny. The reason they're going crazy about it today is because for the first time ever, it broke a penny. But I mean, if you were going to get involved in investing and you could buy something like that for a penny, that's why the meme, the kids love that one, because it's so cheap to just get involved with. I'm going to wait on that to drop back under a penny though. I'm not going in now.
Yeah. Good to know.
I want to critique Biden for a sec, because
do it. Drag him, queen, whatever he is. So you're a queen. Drag him.
Right. Yeah, that's online culture. So Joe Biden, everyone's in the honeymoon stage right now. He's done some decent executive orders, but a lot of it was just rolling back the damage that Trump implemented. For example, his executive order halting all federal contracts on for oil and gas drilling on public lands. It didn't halt or get rid of the past contracts, which they all tried to push and rush to do at the end of Trump's presidency. So again, it's just kind of a halt on the horribleness. And he's been getting a lot of praise from progressives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for adopting a lot of the Green New Deal language, and some of it's really good, but yet he's so insistent on this fracking point that he will not ban fracking. He repeated it in order to presumably hold on to Pennsylvania and parts of the Rust Belt in the election. But even now that he's won the election, this is his rhetoric.
And I know this always comes up. We're not going to ban fracking. We'll protect jobs and grow jobs.
All right, well, it's a short clip, but again, he was emphatic, as I mentioned in the primary, about not banning. Not doing so is not a comprehensive climate proposal, because fracking is deeply harmful, especially when he's making a point to say he's going to address environmental racism, which, like, fracking happens in poor communities and it poisons the water, and has been linked to, in Canadian studies specifically, potentially cancerous material and causing mass disease. So I'm curious about your guys' take on this, but it shouldn't be surprising. But a lot of people thought, oh, he's just doing this for the general election. Nope.
Yeah, I mean, when someone tells you who they are, you should believe them. And I always believed Biden that he didn't want to ban fracking. I'm sure some of his environmental policies are fine. I've looked into them. Better than Trump, certainly, which is a very low bar. But yeah, if you're really serious about having green policy, you got to ban fracking and not just defend it because it's I don't know. I've heard all kinds of galaxy brain takes from libs on fracking, like fracking is woke, fracking is good. I don't know.
It's
bad.
Work? You know what we need to do is start accurately describing as fracking is a project of Hillary Clinton, who sold it worldwide in her time as the State Department.
Don't do that, because then the libs are going to love it even more.
Well, I mean, we want to poison it for like red state folks. I mean, look, libs are gonna like lib, but like if we can tarnish this with Hillary Clinton, like I think a lot of the people who like fracking don't like Hillary Clinton, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and the point though is like the project of Biden as a leader, which he's going to have trouble doing this because he doesn't lead from the front. He always leads from behind, is changing the conversation around it. I mean, the name of the candidate in Louisiana who's running in Cedric Richmond's seat, we played some of his campaign video, and he so succinctly talked about how the Green New Deal would create jobs in that area in Louisiana that has been reliant on and has the industry dominates their oil and gas industry, about the need to adapt. And he did it in like 2 sentences. It's not that hard to say we're going to create jobs that are actually going to last and be better paying. It's not that hard to do that. And yet Biden operates from such a place of fear that he has to go, no, we're not going to ban fracking, we're not going to do it. And also I don't even think maybe he actually wants to do it. So that's part of it.
Rose emoji Twitter trying to stop a strong woman from injecting liquid into the ground to extract natural gas. Can't believe these guys.
Yeah, I'm a misogynist. That's my whole reason behind this critique.
Oh, I know it. I know it.
And anti-black, don't forget.
Sure, right. Of course.
You guys want to get to some calls?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. 312, what's your name? Where are you calling from? 312, that's you on the air. Hello? 1 second. Let me see if I could fix something on my end. 312, what's your name? Where are you calling from? It's not working. Let's go to 408. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hi, what's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air.
Hi, this is Weather. I'm in Atlanta.
Hi, what would you like to talk about today?
Hi, sorry,
just go ahead.
I guess
what do you want?
well, first I would like to say that I'm really glad Jamie's on this show. Definitely provides like a good sort of counterpoint to Sam's, I don't know, more like milquetoast social democrat point of view.
Well, thank you.
I was listening to Antifada like maybe a couple weeks ago. I don't remember who it was. But they were like talking about like basically insurrection and like how to actually do it, and including like how would you like feed a city like New York if it was like some theoretical like commune or whatever, somehow cut off from like the capitalist system. I don't know if you remember exactly what I'm talking about, Jamie. But
that was behind the paywall actually in our bonus with Arturo and Shimon a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, no, but no, I didn't listen to the paywalled part.
Oh well, then I guess it was in the first half. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it was kind of just like a quick mention, but what was I saying? Oh yeah, like I mean the fact is like, I mean, first off, I want to say that for a city like New York specifically, I don't think that it's like really possible to do that. In fact, I don't think it's really possible to like have a city the size of New York, particularly in like the climate that it's in, and have it be sustainable without like gas and oil, or like some kind of massive extraction, maybe for like solar technology or whatever. But like there are, I think, like stopgap measures.
You got some ideas?
I don't have like specific ideas, but I know like when Cuba was like cut off from like basically all international trade, and like I mentioned, like it's in a much better climate for like growing food than New York City, but they basically had to switch to like a completely like organic method of farming, and also a lot of like urban farming.
Yeah, actually,
I think they like. So yeah, I think they've like provided some like good examples of that.
No, I think you're totally right. Just to summarize what this episode is about, we were talking about the need to form links between the big cities and the small cities and the countryside, right? Because the small cities are often a conduit from the big cities to the countryside where the food comes from. And one example of a revolution where they actually did a very good job linking the cities and the countryside and keeping those supply lines open was the Cuban Revolution. So basically, we're saying not only is it important on a logistical level in the present tense in terms of doing state level politics to form better links between the cities and the small towns and the countryside, but it's also important in an actual revolutionary scenario. So really, it's a win-win for the organized left.
Thanks for the call. Got a lot of calls today, so I got to be quick with these calls today.
Can
Really quick,
I
go
say
ahead.
one thing?
Sure, really quick.
All right. So I'm in Atlanta. We have a like food drive every Saturday at Woodruff Park, 10 a.m. You can bring like food or clothes, or you can just like come and get food. So that's Woodruff Park, Saturday, 10 a.m. In downtown Atlanta. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice. And if you DM me a link to that, I can tweet it out to do a little signal boost for you.
505, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's up? What would you like to, what's your name and what would you like to talk about today?
Awesome. This is Sexy Joe from New Mexico.
Hey.
Ooh, I like that.
I guess, thanks so much. I've got to say so many topics I wanted to talk about, but I guess keeping it somewhat on topic, to tag off something Jamie said earlier about, we all know we're like an end stage capitalism sort of failing and breaking down, and we need to transition into something in the future, move forward past it. I personally call myself a utopian. I think something along the lines of Star Trek, or basically a resource management system that functions for the whole planet. But I personally steer away from communism, things like, the whole, basically communism using comrade or things like that, because I feel like it's sort of in the past, it's 20th century. And that's just my quick thing, utopian.
All right. So, and my mother was like, do not do that, Emma. Future employers will see. So like there is some boomer resistance to that. Like I can attest to that.
Well, Star Trek, it's funny that you say we shouldn't use words that come from the past of the communist movement, because Star Trek is the future that communists want. I think we need to reckon with the history of communism in the 20th century. We need to reckon with its historic failures. We also need to acknowledge and appreciate the accomplishments of these revolutions in vastly improving the lives of people who were previously just immiserated. Also in terms of development the development of the productive capacity of the USSR, of China, was amazing in just a few short decades. But yeah, the future that I'm talking about when I say communism is the Star Trek future. And Star Trek actually owes a pretty big debt to libertarian socialism. And my producer, Andy from the Antifada, actually wrote a really good article about Star Trek and libertarian socialism that you can read in the New York Times if you Google it. But like, yeah, I think when talking to people who have been heavily propagandized against communism, I tried not to lean too hard on the C word, but it's also hard because like that's the word that we have to describe the thing that I'm talking about. So
I like
I'm
utopian for that reason.
Well, can I push back on?
Utopian also gets a lot of pushback. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, here's the problem I have with utopian is capitalism, socialism, and communism all give you a hint as to who decides economic priorities. Utopian doesn't. So like, I think it's too fuzzy, frankly. I don't actually know how much it helps. I think you need to clarify what socialism means or communism. But I think you need to have some kind of sort of explicit demand as to who's deciding these economic priorities.
Yeah, I mean, utopia also means that it's not a real place, that it's impossible. And I think that it is possible to transition out of capitalism and to socialism or communism. I do. I don't want to get too programmatic about it because I think that is utopian when you try to pretend that you can know every single detail of how this society is going to run ahead of time. And Marx thought that that was utopian as well, because it's not for me to say, it's not for any individual communist to say, it's going to be for the people to say when they're doing a transition, because that's true democracy. So I know people get frustrated sometimes that I don't want to lay it all out there. But another thing I want to emphasize is the idea of scarcity and post-scarcity. And I think Star Trek is really good for a lot of different reasons, helping people imagine a world beyond capitalism and a positive world beyond capitalism. However, I don't want people to think that this kind of world is dependent on some magic replicator technology and an infinite source of energy, right? Because that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. I think we need to reframe how we think about scarcity. And that way we could actually attain a post-scarcity world. Like stuff like free time, that is a luxury. That is scarce right now. And that could be in abundance if we organized work in a more intelligent way. And there's some really good ideas for that. Aaron Bananov has done a lot of writing on that topic, and we discuss it on his episode of the Antifada, actually. So check that out if you're interested in how we can have a post-scarcity world without the Star Trek replicator technology.
Could I comment on that?
Sure.
I think those are great points. And to Matt's point about like the description of the system, I think Star Trek and what I'm talking about is something. It could kind of be called an anarcho-utopia or an anarchic system, but mediated by polity, because you'll have to have some kind of democratic system to moderate the anarchism.
Yeah, the federation.
Essentially, the ideal situation. Yeah, exactly. And basically what you're hoping for is a benevolent dictatorship of the majority in a democracy based on a society that has enlightened values, essentially, and sees the common good for the partnership. And I wasn't planning on mentioning this name today. It's a name that hasn't come up on a lot of these progressive YouTube shows, and I watch them all. But the name Terence McKenna, he had a concept called the archaic revival. And my notion of a utopia is actually, it is very low tech. It is an archaic, it's the other type of primate society. And I really think it would be useful to not talk about things in a dualism between progressivism and conservatism, or liberal conservative, or capitalist, communist, but the true dichotomy in humanity, because we're primates, is partnership and dominator. And we should have a partnership society that's basically, honors the feminine, and that's why I call people partner instead of comrade. I like to say, like howdy partner. And yeah, arcade. That's basically a high-tech hunter-gatherer society is what we need. And I guess I could go on, and there's a million other topics I talk about, but I guess I can just let you guys go and say thanks for the show.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you. That's a super interesting idea. I was actually really inspired by reading Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan, which basically says the same thing, which is that humans, for the vast majority of our history as a species, lived in a form of primitive communism. It was not the Hobbesian world that they wanted you to think in the Victorian era when they were first doing anthropology and sort of projecting their current society back in time in a very ahistorical way, right? Like people lived in a cooperative, largely collaborative way. And that's what I took from the book. Now, I don't like arguments made from human nature. Typically, I think that leads you down some very bad pseudoscientific evo-psych Jordan Peterson-y roads, right? But I do think, and my therapist agrees with me, that there is a scientific anthropological case to be made for the fact that humans are deeply social creatures. And part of the reason why we're also fucked up and anxious and depressed right now is because we are separated from each other. And loneliness feels bad because for the vast majority of our history as a species, being alone was literally a matter of life and death because humans banded together to survive. So what does that tell me? It tells me, okay, humans are very adaptable creatures, but we at least have the ability to live in a communal way when we have a survival impetus to do so, which we arguably do again now because capitalism is destroying the world around us. So does it say that communism is inevitable? No, but it says that it's possible. And I also just want to say, because you said, you kind of made the distinction between anarchism and communism there at the end. Anarchists and communists have the same end goal. Communists just have a different road to get there. If you read Lenin's State and Revolution, he talks about state socialism as a phase. And then eventually, once you've done the work of abolishing classes and you no longer need the state as an instrument of class rule to dominate the former capitalist class, then it withers away. Anarchists are like, you know what, let's cut out the middleman, go straight to full communism. So we have similar goals. We just have different ways to get there.
Brendan, I just sent you something in the chat. Can you pull it up on the screen here? Because I was a little bit distracted during that call because I saw something online that distracted me. I guess you can say. So
it's cool. I know you get super bored when I talk about communism. It's fine.
No. This is pretty amazing to me. So you guys remember that Boogaloo boy that Jimmy Dore had on his show on Friday?
Mm-hmm.
Guess where he is today? The Boogaloo boy, not Jimmy Dore.
Well, soon.
Oh boy, I know the answer because you just put it up on the screen.
Apparently Alex Jones. Now, I may be mistaken or misremembering, but isn't there a clip of Jimmy like I know they had this famous spitting incident with Alex, but I thought he had another run-in with him where they maybe I'll look this up. I thought they might have had a come on better terms a little bit than the spitting thing, but I don't know. Either way, maybe they can all team up and talk to the Boogaloo boy.
Yeah, maybe they could all get together and unite behind platforming the Boogaloo Boys. Maybe that's something that'll unite the left and right. Well, it seems like that's what's happening, right? The left and right uniting to platform a right-wing armed militia-styled group.
Oh boy,
very good. Oh boy, I'm sorry. This is the Jimmy Dore to Alex Jones pipeline. My,
it's so bad. I made a comparison the other day when I was kind of helping Sam explain the Red-Brown Alliance and what Strasserism is and how maybe we need to come up with a new word for what's going on here because, Strasserism is a very historically specific thing of, literal Nazis who had some socialist ideals who were, by the way, purged on the night of the Long Knives. So spoiler alert, it doesn't end well for Strasserists, but I compared what's happening now, and I've been saying all along, I'm afraid that there's going to be sort of this vague right-left populist coalition that comes out of this force the vote stuff, that comes out of Jimmy Dore as a cult-like figure. And I compared it to the Front National in France, in that is a sort of traditionally far-right European party that combines elements of social democracy with nationalism, racism, etc. But I think a better comparison would be the 5 Star movement in Italy, because that is headed by a literal clown named Beppe Grillo. And hope I pronounced that right. And they hold a confusing mishmash of views that are populist in nature, but some of them are left-wing, like environmentalism, and some of them are right-wing, like nationalism and anti-immigrant sentiment. So I think if there's any analog for the movement that Jimmy Dore is lazily trying to create, it's that one. But on the bright side, he's probably too lazy to actually create a movement.
Yeah, he's not creating a movement, he's creating an audience.
Right. Also, I don't even know why you would jump to want, like, there are many just completely disengaged people who just have politics that you can completely help shape by just talking to them and getting them informed and showing them what's going on. Like, why do you have to go after people who are opposed to you? There are people who will be much more malleable to what you want to, what you're working towards, who you just have to speak to. What is that?
Well, the individual people, I think, is fine. Like Sam was talking about earlier, and I was talking about the other day.
Right.
Like, people can change, and we need to give people the room to change, and they often change through struggle. Right? Like, I talked about this with Jared from Hard Crackers on last week's Antifada. There were Northern whites who fought in the Civil War on the side of the North, who held what we would consider to be problematic views, racist attitudes going into it. And then by the end of it, they were proud that they liberated the slaves. Like, people can change. And if we don't think people can change, then that's a really nihilistic and depressing viewpoint, because a lot of people need to change in order for us to transition and solve all the problems in the world, right? Like, it used to be much more common to hold racist attitudes, and it's less common now, things of that nature. But you're not going to change as part of a far-right militia movement that wants to start a race war. Like, that doesn't create the kind of consciousness that we need. So we can talk about individuals, but talking about the Boogaloo Boys is sort of bankrupt, I think.
Building a bridge between Black Lives Matter and Kyle Rittenhouse, not
right. No, but I also think that I agree with what you're saying for the most part, Jamie, but I also think that they have to be the ones to initiate. I mean, we can't be running after every one of these fuckers trying to change them. Like, they have to want to show some sort of, wanting to change who they are. There needs to be that moment. And I'm sure there are plenty of people who have come out of white supremacy and who would, who can say that that's how they got out. Like, it wasn't they were forced to change, it was that they took the initiative themselves and reached out and found leftists to talk with. And those leftists gave them the time of day, yes, but the initiation has to come from them. We can't be running after these people saying, hey, are you one of the white supremacists, or are you one of the militia guys? Are you one of the neo-Nazis who want to change? I mean, it's just pointless.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing, because they shouldn't be centered, right? And I agree with you, even just numbers wise, we should be focusing on the vast majority of the working class, which is incredibly diverse, and not these handful of racists or whatever. But, it's happened before, and it can happen again. And I think a lot more of the white proletariat is going to have to get on board with Black liberation if we want to see some movement in a positive direction.
Yeah.
So I would never totally give up on these people.
The other thing to say is joining the Boogaloo Boys is probably a great way to get a case built up on you by the FBI. We just had today on the Proud Boys, one of their main leaders is revealed as a quote informant. Now, whether he's an informant or I think maybe controlled by the FBI is a question I would be interested in investigating, because I don't necessarily trust the FBI on these matters. But these organizations are lousy with feds. So you're going to join an armed group that flirts with fascism and but I'm pro-gay. You're gonna just not a good proposition for anybody.
Right.
Got cops on cops on cops at these meetings.
Let's go to the phones again. Probably have time for one, maybe two more calls, depending on how long this goes. Let's go to 419. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's up?
Okay, good. Sorry, phone's kind of broken. I kind of have a different outlook on the whole QAnon phenomenon.
Oh, let me hear it.
Well, okay, so first it starts off at I started protesting because of Tamir Rice. I just was completely appalled at that whole situation, and I started finding more protest groups, and one that I thought was more, I would say, not anarchist, but hey, we need to change things, is anonymous. There's people who do hack, but the majority were actually there talking, trying to communicate, and trying to get things changed in local levels. After a while, I realized it was just all talking online, but meeting and talking to everyone online, I realized that we all had one understanding, and that is that there is class warfare going on right now. It's the rich and powerful screwing us over with laws. I mean, what's going on with Robinhood, I literally just listening to you guys somewhat explain it today is the first time I've ever heard it. And that is just obnoxious. So like we all had this basic understanding of like, we need to do something. It doesn't feel right. A lot of people, it doesn't matter if you're left or right, something feels wrong. Like truly feels wrong with what's going on.
Right.
And with QAnon, there was this grain of truth. And that's what I just explained, is that
grain of truth to them.
Define the grain,
though. Let's be very specific, right? I don't want to.
Oh no, the rich and powerful doing,
but I mean,
making laws,
that's
getting
not
away
what
with tax evasion, and that it's us clashing with all this other random stuff while they get more rich and more powerful.
Right,
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
but that's not. But I totally get what you're saying. Where this is where this hatred for the elites come from, and yes, obviously that's something that the left and the right both feel. But the reason there could be no unity between the left and the right over this is because the left does not like the elites for actually holding them down through basically controlling the financial system, and then on top of that, controlling the government via the financial system. But then on the right-hand side, they hate the elites because they believe that they're drinking baby blood and running global satanic child pedophile rings. I mean, and again, they're doing this to benefit Donald Trump, the elite of the elite. I mean, and this is when he was president.
That's the key point.
Right.
All these things are true, but the QAnon is it's a narrative to capture people who are starting to realize that and direct them towards reactionary purposes. That's the problem with it. Like all this, it has a grain of the truth, but it will be very careful to never give you any more than that. And I think until people are out of it,
and it keeps compounding more and more. There were trolls in it. I can't remember which color it was, but because I stopped protesting and all that stuff years ago. But I do remember there was a color wheel, and there was stuff like white hats, black hats, green hats, yellow hats, and there were certain people who like doing certain things. There was people who literally just loved to troll. And in their tight-knit group, it was, what could I say to get people to believe? And then people would one-up that. And this whole QAnon stuff, because I don't do much online stuff because I see it completely idiotic. I'm a numbers guy. I go to school, do stuff, physics, numbers. That's it. English, art, all that other stuff I don't care about. And from what I've seen and read, like in the last week, which is the only reason why I'm calling, is I seriously think it's just people who are trying to one-up each other with, hey, I'm going to be able to get them to believe this. And then the week after that, it's, hey, I'm going to get them to believe something crazier. And it's compounded. This is insane. And they've just used so much hate and just disgust for the other political party, because it's now, I would say it's more right with the whole QAnon, that this is dangerous. This is really, really, really dangerous. With people saying, oh, it's bad domestic terrorism, this is going to be really, really bad later on. That, I mean, yeah, with what you guys were saying, that's just my added part. You actually kind of got with the whole, yeah.
Right. No, there's definitely people who are falling for this, who truly believe it, and they've been brainwashed, and they're not out to line their pockets. They're not out to push political ideology. They actually fully fell for this QAnon conspiracy theory wholly, and as much as you can believe in a religion, honestly, because in a lot of ways it is like a religion for some of these people. And for those people, I truly feel for them, and I wish that someone could intervene in their lives and pull them out. Again, I really strongly believe that when it comes to these types of ideologies, and especially with the QAnon conspiracy, people who are this far deep into it, they're going to have to take the initiative. Otherwise, it's just going to be hopeless.
Yeah.
But then there are
there's no way though, because like you said, it's like a religion. It's a cult. It's a part of them. Like they've literally taken a step in, and that's that's all it is. And
and this happens.
There'll be people who chip away, and I think people should be there for them, so they could possibly have better politics, a better understanding of the world. But yeah, I agree with you too. I think there's going to be a large number of people who are gone. They're just too far deep into it. Go ahead, Jamie. I'm sorry.
And this happens against a backdrop and against a society where people are, like I've been talking about, so atomized and just screaming for a connection and for community with other people. And QAnon gives them that, right? Like, people make friends on these message boards. They go to meetups where we go one, we go all. That's their motto. Like, it's very obvious that it satisfies this need for people. And that is one characteristic of fascism historically. It is a kind of mass politics that is able to compete and steal from the mass politics of the anti-capitalist left. And I think also another thing this points to that I've been talking about all along is the kind of conspiratorial thinking that it leads to when you only have a vague populist critique of elites and the buck stops there, right? It's so important for people to understand that it's not just the elites that are doing this. The elites don't actually have that much control. So much of it is overdetermined by the system, by the capitalist system. And when people don't understand that, sometimes they go off in some wildly insane directions.
Right. Thanks for the call, though. Appreciate it.
Oh, just one quick thing.
Really quick.
Okay, sorry. Where we go one, we go all actually came from hashtag We Are One.
For a second, I thought you were actually dropping it to be ironic.
For years.
Right.
No. If you look it up, that's what it was. Is all the old anonymous protests. Hashtag We Are One. And when I heard that, I was like, they definitely just. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. They jacked that shit
QAnon,
from us.
Yeah. Right. I also love the idea that these.
No. This is before QAnon. This was like 8 years ago.
Right. No. Yeah. No, what you're talking about. All right. Thanks for the call. Sorry, we got to jump. Sorry about that. No, I mean, it's also funny you brought up that it's a socializing event for a lot of people, Jamie, because I don't know if you guys saw this, but on Inauguration Day for Biden, Ron Watkins, one of the biggest pushers of QAnon. He's the son of Jim Watkins, the guy who owns 8kun. He worked as the administrator for 8kun. He went on OAN over and over again, pushing QAnon conspiracy theories. On Inauguration Day, he tweeted out, honestly, not verbatim, but something to the effect of, QAnon was really about the friends we made along the way. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a good day. That's literally
it seriously was, though. And like, it drives me insane as a leftist because I know that they took all of that shit from us in the first place. And we have our work cut out for us, but we need to be forming the same kinds of well, not the same kinds, but we need to be forming our own kinds of social bonds and our own kinds of community, because that's a real need that people have, that this stuff serves for them.
All right. All right, guys. I think that's all the time we have today, right? We're closing up the show for the day. I'll be like 2 IMs. Fabu Cat says Marx didn't get rich buying and selling stocks. Didn't one of his kids die of starvation?
He was a broke ass his entire life. His kids died for all sorts of different reasons.
He was subsidized by Engels.
Daddy Engels, that's right.
So he was, hold on a minute. So he was gambling away Engels' money while he was betting on the stocks.
Probably. Really, it's classic, right? No, he was a broke boy.
Wait,
telling him, Marx, posting isn't revolution. And he's like, wait a second.
Yeah, and did you see that letter from his mom too that was like, I wish you'd stop analyzing capital and start making some capital.
Wait, so if Marx was trading stocks based on borrowed money from Engels, does that make Karl Marx technically a short seller?
Wait, how would it make him a short seller?
Because this is short selling when you borrow. Oh, it'd be when you borrow a stock. Okay.
No, yeah, not quite the same.
Yeah. Okay. I was making a joke.
Sorry, I'm still trying to conceptually get short selling down. So
short selling is when you. Short selling is when you buy a stock, not when you buy a stock, when you borrow a stock and then you sell it, but then you actually purchase it when the stock drops. So you pocket the extra money.
Yeah. Or sell future options, basically.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
It makes me so mad.
All right. So, all right, guys. Oh, wait. Jamie, Josh from Chicago, last IM of the day. Okay. Jamie is spot on in comparing Jimmy to the 5-star movement in Italy. To be honest, Tulsi gave me those vibes during the primary. Someone should tell Crystal Ball and company that the left and right populism teaming up results in this.
Tulsi's proven us right every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're too far gone. Either they are useful idiots and they don't understand it, or they do understand it, but they understand their pocketbooks better. I don't know.
Right. Final line of the day. Good morning, comrade, says Carl, get a job and call your mother. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into the show today. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Matt Binder. Check out the video I did on the Boogaloo Boys and the Boogaloo Boy who went on Jimmy Dore's show right there at that channel. I'll be doing a live stream tomorrow with Momita Ahmed, who's running for city council in New York as a socialist. Her election is on Tuesday. If you live in Queens in her district, she would be, if she wins, because it's a special election, she would be the first socialist city council member, I believe. So definitely check out that live stream I'm doing with her tomorrow. And if you live in her district, vote for her on Tuesday. The rest of the Majority Report crew will see you tomorrow. Stay tuned for Nomiki's show at Nomiki's channel at 3:00. Any of you guys have anything else to add other than checking out?
Yeah, tune in to our Emerge teach-in at 7 p.m. with Assad Haider on communist politics in our time.
All right. See you guys next Thursday. What was that?
It might take to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught.